Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. And just to reiterate, I mentioned it in the chat already, but Lynn Floyd is new here. Hi, by the way, welcome, Lynn. Thank you for being a member and for just being around. And Lynn asked, are political questions fair game? Yes, they are. Political questions are completely fair game for this live stream. But as I always remind everybody at the beginning of an Ask Away, if you are in the live chat and you have a question for me during the show, if possible, please wait until I get through all of the patron and member questions, because I'm going to do those first, and then I will have time to pay full attention to all of you wonderful folks in the live chat. So if you have something that you want me to talk about, something that you want to ask me, or if you were especially planning on being generous and throwing out a super chat or something like that, please, if possible, hold on to all of that until I get through the patron and member questions that were submitted ahead of time by, get this, my patrons and members. And then I will spend the rest of the show talking to the chat and talking about whatever you want me to talk about. So, having gotten that out of the way, welcome everybody once again. And let's get started with the patron and member questions. And the first of those comes from MW Ridera, who says, in 2019, my wife and I adopted a greyhound from an organization that made sure that racing dogs found loving homes instead of being put down when they started to slow down. She didn't know how to be a pet at first. She was afraid of hugs and wouldn't touch treats. She is now the sweetest dog I've ever known. She loves people so much, wanting to make friends with everyone, pushing her head into people's hands and rubbing her face on people's legs like a big cat. I don't think I would have survived recent years without her comfort. A few weeks ago, when my friends came over, she jumped up so fast to greet them that she hurt her leg and has been limping ever since. We took her to the vet and got bad news. She has bone cancer. She can be saved, but it will cost $7,000 we don't have. If we can't come up with the money soon, she'll die. So I'm passing the hat around, and there's a GoFundMe link, and that GoFundMe link is in the description of this live stream. So if you would like to contribute to help out with the puppy dog here, you can click the link. It is in the description of this video. It'll take you right to the GoFundMe page, and you can donate whatever you can afford. And also, here's a photo of her cuddling her cat brother, and that photo is right there. So if you would like to help out that adorable greyhound, and also by proxy help out the cat, although I'm sure the cat would never admit to to wanting help, but link in the video description, and best of luck with that. William Tucker, Stuffy needs more friends. Hans seems absent. You're argumentative. I don't know, maybe a jolly Ukrainian refugee bunny? A visiting southern cat? That's mixed things up. That'd mix things up, maybe. Loving all the Stuffy. Keep busting. Thank you, William. You know, no matter how many friends Stuffy has, and no matter what those personalities of the friends tend to be, Stuffy usually finds himself in the position of being the only reasonable person around. So it really doesn't matter, how many friends he has, or what their personas are. Stuffy will always sort of be in his current predicament, as long as I'm writing the show anyway. And don't worry about Stuffy. He can take it. But thank you. I always like when people tell me they enjoy the Stuffy videos, because they are my favorite. Faragrim, hello from myself and my husband. Charlie Kirk was actually an awful debater, as evidenced by him getting his ass handed to him in Cambridge. Any thoughts on how to convince people of the reality that he clip-farmed and gotcha'd freshman college students to make his points seem more legitimate than they really were? Who are you trying to convince? Like, is this really worth the effort that it's going to take? Like, if somebody is Charlie Kirk pilled, to the point where they're holding him up as not only some fucking ridiculously misplaced paragon of virtue, but also as like a really super intelligent guy and a great debater, which he manifestly wasn't. If they've already decided that that's what they believe, and we're talking about just some dipshit that Like it's not a person in any position of authority or power, you know. And even, and if that's the case, I still wouldn't try. I wouldn't recommend trying to persuade them. Just, you know, figure out what the mechanism is for removing them from power, and, you know, try to avail yourself of that. Vote against them or whatever you need to do to remove them from their position of power. But if it's just some random asshole who thinks Charlie Kirk was great, like what's in it for you to persuade them that they're wrong? I mean, they're definitely wrong, and fuck them, right? Fuck them. But like, as for how do you convince people that he was a shitty debater when they've decided that he was actually a great debater? I mean, my advice is just move on. Do something else. Life's too short, you know? Life's too short to argue with people over whether or not Charlie Kirk was a great debater. I'm sorry I can't be more helpful, but that is my attitude. Philip Kehoe, thanks for the gift membership. Don't thank me. Thank the generous member who gave it out. Happy to have you aboard, whether the product of a gift membership or for any other reason, Philip, and glad that you're around. Philip says, an experience streaming may have made obsolete. Catching a movie on TV late at night and staying up to watch it. I have great memories of discovering a few movies this way. Magnolia, Cradle Will Rock. But the one I want to talk about here is a Robert Downey Jr. movie from 1995 called Restoration. I watched it on Paramount Plus some time ago and found it much as I remembered it. A pleasant watch with a great cast. Besides RDJ, Sam Neill as King Charles II, David Thewlis, Ian McKellen, Polly Walker, Meg Ryan doing a horrible Irish accent. So Robert Marivelle is a young doctor who comes to the king's attention, abandons his medical work for a life of partying at court, and gets a nice house and estate from the king, then falls out of favor, loses all his gains, is humbled, and through his subsequent experience becomes a better, wiser man, winning the king's respect and getting his nice house back. It won Oscars for sets and costumes. Steve, what movies can you remember discovering on late night TV? Oh, good question. This is not exactly what you're asking, but for me, the best answer is The Amazing Colossal Man, because that was the movie that they were watching in the first episode of Mystery Science Theater I ever saw. And I discovered that on late night TV. In fact, I discovered it on the syndicated version of Mystery Science Theater, the Mystery Science Theater Hour, which is where they took a selection of episodes from their first, I think from like season 2 through season 4, maybe. They took their best episodes and they cut them in half, and they added new like bumpers with Mike Nelson playing a character, playing the guy from Biography. I can't remember his name now, but Mike Nelson would do a character, and they would show half the movie, and then next week you'd get the other half, right? And so this was a way of showing Mystery Science Theater in a 1-hour format on syndication, so you didn't have to have cable to see it, and you didn't. But so it was The Amazing Colossal Man was the first episode I ever saw, and I was hooked on the show instantly. Like I immediately got it. I knew what they were doing. I thought it was hilarious, and it had a massive influence on me and on my sense of humor. So, I mean, even though technically that's not quite what you're asking, but still they were watching The Amazing Colossal Man and it was on late at night. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to watch it. So The Amazing Colossal Man via Mystery Science Theater. Isaiah Taylor, is there a local market? There is a local market that I go to for groceries here in Tallahassee, Florida, called Star's Meat Market. I go there almost often because you can get 5 parcels of meat or other items for only $25. There's a white lady who works there, and her boss is Palestinian. My heart dropped. Not because I don't like Palestinians, obviously that's not true, but because I can't even begin to understand what he's currently going through. How does her boss make it through life when you literally have people like Mike Huckabee believing that his God thinks it's okay to kill the Palestinians for being about the second coming of Christ? To bring about the second coming of Christ. I really, really want to tell this person that I'm deeply, deeply sorry for what my country has done to his people, but I fear that my apology may come off as too cheesy and typical. Even as a black guy with our history, I can't even begin to compare our struggles to his. Steve and the whole AA gang, any advice for offering empathy? I think you can offer empathy without broaching that specific subject. If you see this person on a semi-regular basis, just show them kindness when you see them, just in the natural course of your interactions. You don't, I agree. It would be, I don't know if it would necessarily come off as cheesy, but it might come across as forced and disingenuous, even though you wouldn't mean it that way. I'm sure you would be very sincere, but it might come across as, oh, by the way, since I've run into you in the grocery store, let me just express my deepest, sympathy and just tell you how awful I think what is happening to your people in Palestine is. Like, I think it would be best to just show this person some kindness and some empathy, just person to person. And you don't necessarily need to bring up the subject. If you get to know each other, if for some reason you become friends or the kind of acquaintances that talk about this kind of stuff, and this person brings it up on their own, then you've got an opening, and then you can talk about it in more specific detail. But if it's just, oh, this is the guy who owns the grocery store I go to, there's no need to bring it up, especially if you're worried that it'll come out wrong, or that it'll make him feel bad or make you look like something that you're not trying to be. Just be nice to him and be kind to him during the course of your natural interactions, and I think that'll be good. Mickey, hey Steve, what's your advice to new aspiring YouTubers? I want to start talking truth to power and would love to know some strategies and best practices. Thanks, Steve. I get this question from time to time, and my basic answer, I think, has been the same since the first time I was asked it, which is, number one, make sure you have the right equipment for whatever kind of videos you want to make. If you are going to be on camera, make sure that, excuse me. If you're going to be on camera, make sure you have the best camera that you can afford. Like, don't go into debt for it. Don't mortgage your house or whatever, like anybody owns a house. Don't take out a loan, let's say. Don't take out a loan to get a camera to start a YouTube channel with, but you can probably use the camera on your phone. The camera that most people have in their smartphones now is better than the camera I started with when I started YouTube. So, use your phone if you need a camera. Maybe invest a little bit in an external microphone for whether you're using like a separate camera or your phone. When I record videos on my phone, I usually have a DSLR camera that I use to record most of my videos, but sometimes when I do like off the cuff, non-scripted videos, I'll record them using my phone. And I have this little guy, which is an external microphone that plugs into the charger port on my phone, and that records the audio instead of the built-in phone microphone. And it's just way, way, way better. So you could use something like that, or you could get like a clip-on that connects via Bluetooth or something. But just get something that can record decent sound and decent video. If you're going to use your phone, familiarize yourself with the manual settings on your camera app so that, you can get it to look exactly the way you want to look, and it won't, be readjusting the brightness and the white balance all the time. You just get it set so that it looks the way you want it to look, and, and figure out how to do that and figure out what that is and do that. But other than getting the right equipment, just so that you look okay and you sound okay, why are you making the channel? What's your message? What are you going to say? What are you going to show people? Whatever your format is, you're going to make little documentaries, you're going to do video essays, you're going to do monologues, you're going to do live streams where you talk to people, like whatever you're doing. Why is anybody going to want to watch you in particular doing it? And when you answer that question, you'll know basically what your channel is going to be and what you have to offer. So what's your political perspective? What issues do you care about? What experiences have you had that can inform what you're going to say? Like, who are you? Who are you going to be on camera? Who are you going to reveal yourself to be through your videos? Figure that out. And you don't need to figure it all out. Because the thing is, if you wind up doing it long enough, you'll figure it out more and more the longer you do it. You'll figure a lot of it out as you go along. But you should at least start with some idea, with some concept of what you bring to all of this. And those are, to me, those are the two most important. I mean, as far as like, I mean, you're asking the wrong guy as far as strategies and best practices in terms of like making it a business or getting your videos to be seen. You know, because like some of my best videos, some of the videos that I think are the best are the ones that get like relatively few views, you know? And that's sometimes a little frustrating when I've written something and made something that I think is just great and it just kind of languishes. But that's the way it is, you know. So I don't really worry about, oh, let me come up with an idea that's going to get like the most number of views. Let me chase views. I don't think it's a good idea to chase views. I think it's a good idea to chase good videos, like make a good video. And you'll be able to do that eventually after you've figured out all the things I've just been rambling about. So good luck to you. Good luck to you if you do decide to go through with it. Get a good camera, get a good microphone, and figure out what you want to say and how you want to say it. Ryan Nickens, as a fellow atheist, I'm curious to know at what age did you give up believing? And what was the strongest feeling associated with that decision, i.e. sadness or loss of trust? You know, I don't really have this kind of a story. I think I was probably in my mid to late 20s when I finally sort of told myself, you know, you don't believe this. You don't think this is true. So why are we trying to make ourselves believe this? That was my experience. I don't think I ever truly had a belief. I spent many, many, many years trying to have one, wanting to have one, looking for room like in my doubt, in my mostly naturalistic worldview, that I could fit religious beliefs or supernatural beliefs or things like that. But ultimately, I admitted to myself, I don't think any of this is true. You know, I would like for some of it to be. I like it's a very comforting, beautiful idea that, oh, when you die, some part of you lives on and you pass on to this other plane of existence and you get to see all your dead friends and family again and everybody's together and you live forever and it's great. That's a beautiful idea. I wish that were true. I hope it is true, but do I realistically believe that it's true? No, I don't. And so that's kind of, you know, but I've always felt that. It was just a matter of admitting it to myself and then to other people. So there was no feeling of like loss of trust or sadness in terms of giving up my belief or my professed belief, my attempt to believe. There was no feeling associated with that at all, except maybe a little bit of relief of being able to just say it. Like, I don't believe this. You know, I don't think this is true. I've tried my whole life to believe this, and I don't think it's true. Just being able to say that maybe carried a little bit of belief, a little bit of sort of mental liberation, but there was no sadness. The sadness was when I found out that people died. The sadness was when I found out, oh, everybody dies? Everybody? Like, including me. Me too? Someday? Fuck. That was sad. That still makes me very, very sad. But the loss of belief, there wasn't really a strong feeling like that associated with it. Donovan, hey Steve, just watched the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman in theaters again for Batman Day. And when looking things up, found out that the bat suit that Pattinson wears is a direct reference to Adam West's suit. The stitching where Bruce has repaired his mask is meant to evoke the lines around the nose and eyebrows on Adam West's mask. The first gang Batman fights are a reference to the Jokers from Batman Beyond. This film really is a love letter to Batman fans. Matt Reeves is even friends with several Batman comics writers like Jeff Loeb. I just wanted to mention that and ask, what is your favorite Easter egg in the film or just your favorite moment from it? I don't know if I have a favorite Easter egg. My favorite moment is near the end when Batman sparks the flare and leads the people out of the wreckage in Gotham Square Garden after the after the flood. I think that's that. The first time I saw the movie, I was not prepared for how beautiful that moment would be. It's the most beautiful and unexpectedly beautiful moment I've ever seen in a Batman film by far. It's just poetic and cinematic and human, and inspiring. And I love that moment. So I love that. I love every time Jim Gordon refers to Batman as man, like they're just bros. Like, I love that. I love the fact, I love when Batman just walks around in his Batman suit, like when he's at the crime scene, walking around with the other cops, just in his Batman suit. And he goes to the club, the Penguins nightclub, looking for information, and he's in his Batman suit. He's just walking around in the nightclub in his Batman costume. I love that kind of stuff. But no, God, it's such a great movie. God, it's such a great movie. I love that movie so much. And the little winks and nods in terms of, like, the stitching on the cowl and stuff. That's all great, but to me, my favorite parts are that beautiful shot that I just described, and like the silly slash pulpy stuff. Like Batman just being a detective in full Batman suit, surrounded by cops, like it's nothing. Hell, hey, it's Batman. I love that stuff. Jan, hey Steve, just FYI, I've had tech problems with streaming and only just now got to watch the magnificent Ferengi Trek reluctantly. Since I didn't get to comment there, just let me say, love the episode. We need all the fun we can get these days. In an effort to avoid current events, I've been concentrating on 50s and 60s sci-fi. Big fun, highly recommend to all. Rewatching The Twilight Zone is always great, and my favorite episode is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Slide aside, love Claude Akins. As Serling comments, I paraphrase, the evil cannot be contained to the Twilight Zone. Timeless. My question, which is your favorite episode of the original series? Take care, love your work. Boy, I love the Twilight Zone. My favorite episode of the original Twilight Zone. There are always a few episodes that are kind of duking it out in my head for my favorite episode. But I think if I absolutely had to choose one, it would be the episode Nick of Time, which is the other William Shatner episode. William Shatner most famously stars in Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with the gremlin on the wing of the airplane. But before that episode, he is in an episode called Nick of Time, where he plays a guy who has just gotten married, and he and his wife, their car breaks down and they have to stop in this little town, and they go into a diner to get some lunch and wait for their car to, get finished in the garage that they had to take it to. And there's a little fortune-telling napkin holder in the booth where they sit. And, you put a penny in and you push a lever and a little card pops out and it tells you your fortune. It's just a fun little thing to play with and, leech a little extra cash out of the customers at the diner. But Shatner's character becomes convinced that this particular fortune teller at their particular booth is actually telling their future. And he refuses to leave. He wants to stay in the booth and let this little gimmick, tell them what their future is going to be. And it's such a simple idea, and it depends entirely on the superstition and the paranoia of the character. It's one of the few Twilight Zones where nothing explicitly supernatural happens. There's no ghosts, there's no aliens, there's, nobody with any special powers, nothing explicitly supernatural happens at all. It's just a guy who has convinced himself that this machine in the booth in the diner is telling his future. And it's great. It's such a great episode. And Shatner is so amazing. And this is obviously several years pre Captain Kirk, but he's great. And it's just, so if I had to pick one, that would be my favorite, but it's really hard to pick one. And Monsters on Maple Street is right up there as well. I love that episode, and I love me some Claude Akins. Give me as much Claude Akins as you got. General Contact Unit Problem Child. Since Trump was reelected, I've been thinking that maybe people need to stop advocating for gun control, as under fascism, the only gun control you're likely to get is the regime disarming people it wants to victimize. The right's reaction to that church shooting made me feel vindicated in that concern, as they're talking about disarming specifically trans people. Like maybe gun control is a thing you only have the luxury of advocating for when you have a government you can remotely trust, and you just don't have that right now. 2, is there a chilling effect caused by making people think it's risky to joke about Charlie Kirk online? A lot of people have been tone policing other leftists for mocking Charlie Kirk's death. And one argument I've seen is, if we don't really gain anything from these jokes, why make them if they just piss off the other side and make them want to attack us? To which my response would be, I don't want to start worrying about how fascists might react before I speak. And that would also be my reaction. And I would second that reaction. And I would say you shouldn't be worrying about what fascists will say or do based on what you say. If you give them that much, then the I don't want to be super dramatic and say, then the fascists have already won. But you have ceded territory to them. And that general effect is one of the major reasons why the right has such an outsized grip on political power in this country. The right, especially the far right, the fundamentalist, like radical right wing in the United States, is not that many people. I mean, it's a lot of people. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still like millions of people, but it's nowhere close to a majority of people, not even close. And yet they have come to dominate politics and a whole bunch of the media, and even the media that even the areas that they don't dominate, they have the power to intimidate. And it's because we have ceded them all of this territory, much of it without a fight. And they make a bunch of noise, and they puff out their chests, and they rattle their sabers, and we go, ooh, sorry. And then we and as you say in your question, we tone police each other. We do their work for them. Don't say that. No sense making them angry. No sense being provocative. What the fuck are you talking about? Who are we provoking? Those assholes over there? Look what happened. And I don't want to, I mean, everybody has used this example because it's recent and it's high profile. But I mean, there are other examples of the same thing happening that didn't get as good of a result, which sucks. But look at the Jimmy Kimmel situation. Jimmy Kimmel gets taken off the air because the company that owns his show and owns the network that his show is on capitulates to Trump. They do the cowardly act, right? Trump's FCC threatens them. They have, they get pressure from affiliates that want to that have a merger in the works, and they're like, oh, sorry, we'll take it down. He said something that upset the dear leader. Sorry. And a bunch of people in the audience, in the public, got pissed off and let Disney know they were pissed off. And some of those people canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions and cost Disney a bunch of money. So now Disney knows that the audience is pissed at them, and some of the audience is saying, fuck this, you're not getting my money, and is canceling their subscriptions to Disney stuff, right? And Disney turns around and says, okay, you know what? We've talked to Jimmy about it, and we've decided to put him back on the air. He was off the air less than a week. And then look what happened just this week. He comes back on the air on Tuesday, but he's only on the air in about 3/4 of the country because Sinclair and Nexstar, two of the big conglomerates that own a bunch of TV stations that are in Trump's pocket, they said, well, we're not still putting a show on. Oh, sure, ABC can put him back on, but we're not going to show his show in our markets. That lasted 3 days. Tonight, he's back on the air in Sinclair markets. Sinclair caved after 3 days. All you have to do is stand up to them because they're bullies and they have no ass and they have no stamina. They're all talk and no follow through. They don't have guts. They don't have work ethic. They're lazy intellectually and physically in most cases, and they are fucking cowards. So anytime you capitulate to them, and capitulation also includes going out of your way not to upset them, walking on eggshells, tone policing yourself because you don't want to upset them. Anytime you give them something, you are giving them something that they almost certainly could not have taken from you in a fight. So don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Don't ever worry about how fascists might react before you speak. Fuck them. Fascists are the last people you should ever worry about offending. There are people that have legitimate sensitivities and sensibilities that we should be open-minded about, and we should be listening to, and we should be adjusting our behavior and adjusting our speech and trying to be as inclusive and as tolerant and accepting as we possibly can, but not fascists. Fuck them. Let them get pissed off. Let them throw a fucking tantrum. That's usually all that they can fucking do. So no. No tone policing among the left for the sake of fascists, please. Totally not a demon. If someone were designing a personalized hell for you, which would be worse? 1 month spent looking after someone else's kids, 2 weeks on a Star Trek themed cruise, 1 day in the company of Loxana Troy, 1 hour of listening to Ben Shapiro speak, or 10 minutes in the company of Elon Musk. P.S. I don't actually hate you. Well, that's good to know. What would be, the kids. The kids. Taking care of the kids. Number one, that's the longest one. You said I have to take care of someone's kids for a month. So that shoots it to the top right there. And also, like, taking care of someone else's kids, that's a responsibility. Even if you don't like the kids, and even if you don't like being in that position of taking care of kids, once you have the job, that's your responsibility. And there's no break from that, and there's no place to hide from that. Unless you're just a fucking shitty person and you don't care what happens to the kids. And that's not me. Even though I'm not eager to be in the company of children, like if children are in my responsibility, I don't want anything to happen to the kids. So that's one of the main reasons why I never had my own kids, because I'm like, I'm not signing up for that. That's not for me. Because once you have that responsibility, you have it. And you have to take it seriously, and you have to do right by those kids. You know, like that's just, you have to, unless you're a piece of shit. So there's no place to hide. On a Star Trek themed cruise, presumably I could just hang out in my cabin as much as possible. I could just, I could probably hide from Loxana Troy. I've only got to avoid her for a day, and even if I have to spend the day in her company contractually, it's only a day. I mean, it'll feel like a fucking year and a half, but it's only going to be a day. So I can do it. And the same thing with the Ben Shapiro thing or the Elon Musk thing. I can last an hour or 10 minutes. It's going to suck, but I can do that, But taking care of somebody else's kids for a month, you're signing up for something there. And that's not something I want to sign up for. So that will be my personal hell out of those options. Danny K. Hi, Steve. If Starfleet Command reached out to you offering to let you name a newly commissioned Excelsior class starship, what name would you choose for it? Thanks. Hope all is well. So I get an Excelsior class. So I get just the same, the leftover model from the movies that they used on TNG whenever they needed a ship that didn't look like the Enterprise. Oh boy, an Excelsior class. Yay. If I was ever able to name a ship in Star Trek, I always said I would either name it the Atlantis, because that's my favorite space shuttle. And I kind of dig it that they name ships in Star Trek after space shuttles. So it would either be the Atlantis, or I might also name it the Daedalus, because I just like the way that sounds. I like the way Daedalus sounds. So I would maybe call it the Daedalus. It's a very starshipy sounding name, isn't it? There is actually one critical takeaway. Hi, Steve. John here. As a Christian, I did appreciate Erica Kirk's comments during the eulogy she gave. Honestly, the entirety of the rest of the event, which happened in Arizona this past Sunday, was 100% a far-right recruiting, galvanizing event. The one crucial takeaway progressives must glean from this is that there were nearly 100,000 people in attendance for a total of 4 hours, not to mention millions of others streaming the event. Plus, there's no reason why progressives cannot hold equally direct events which would reflect our ideals and place the spotlight on more left-leaning party leaders. And no, I'm not talking about simply the DNC convention. Certainly continue to have that, of course. I mean, it just seems like there's always events on a pre-planned schedule, and there is, but we simply have to change up the conventional wisdom. We have to explain what we are for much better on an exponentially larger scale. Thought, Steve? Yikes, 500 characters is in the offing. Yes. Pithier. But no, I agree with you. And yes, I definitely, it has to be more than just the DNC. I would love it if we could, and I've said this a million times, if we could pull the DNC further to the left. I think that needs to happen. But one of the things that will pull the DNC to the left is if there are more, high profile events that draw a lot of attention and a lot of support that represent, beliefs and philosophies and people who are further to the left than the mainstream of the DNC. So yeah, I would love it if there were more left-leaning and progressive events that got attention and that showcased progressive values and demonstrated that most of the things that progressives want and ask for are not controversial, are in fact incredibly popular and hotly desired by a large portion of the public. And maybe once that point has been made a few times, the Democrats will start to realize, oh, we don't have to be terrified of this stuff. Like, we can actually run on this stuff unapologetically instead of compromising ourselves from the gate, and saying, well, yeah, universal healthcare is nice, but maybe let's do something other than universal healthcare that would still be better than what we have. Like, why are you compromising yourself right away? Stop it. But that's what Democrats always do because they're afraid. And they're beholden to donors because they think like the big money donors are the only way they can get support for their campaigns and blah, blah. Oh, there's all kinds of shit going on. But yes, I agree with you, is basically what I'm saying. I think we need to we need to do more high profile things, and yes, do a better job of explaining what we want, what we believe, why the things we want and the changes we want would be good for everybody, not just for specific groups that we're advocating for, but for everybody. Like, I think we need to do a much better job of doing all of that. Yes. A revision of my wrestling post or wrestling posit. I'm not sure if that's meant to be posit or if that is a typo. Either way, it works. John, a second round. Steve, I may need you to take away my pro wrestling fan card. I have not the authority, my friend, but please continue. The reason I say this is because I wrongly left off my list arguably the most visually realistic, intense looking match ever. NWA 1995, Starcade. The dog collar match between Rowdy Roddy Piper and Greg the Hammer Valentine. Because of this new inclusion, I'm taking the NWA 1990 Great American Bash, Ric Flair versus Sting, off my list. Steve, I forgot to ask you the most obvious pro wrestling question, which is, do you still watch premium live events from either pro wrestling company? I don't. I even canceled my Peacock subscription in protest of the rising prices and fragmentation. Steve, how do you believe ESPN feels about WWE's first performance on their platform from a business sense? Are they confident in their massive investment? Slight correction, and I hate to be pedantic about this, and I hate it when other people are like this, so please feel free to, roll your eyes at me for this. I totally have it coming. But the dog, I even pushed up my glasses. Did you see that? I didn't even mean to do that. It was unconscious. Actually, the dog collar match at Starcade between Piper and Valentine was in 1983, not 1985. Now, again, that may have been a typo, but that was 83. That was the first Starcade. And yes, that's a great match. Oh my God, what a great match. I do watch the premium. I watch WWE premium live events. I haven't watched an AEW show, pay-per-view or free or weekly TV for going on 2 years. I'm just done with it. I can't, I'm glad the company exists in theory. I'm glad that there's an alternative. I'm particularly glad that there's an alternative for the wrestlers. But I couldn't stand the product anymore. It's just not my kind of show. I wasn't into anybody after Punk left. And then especially after Danielson retired, although by the time he retired, I wasn't really watching regularly anyway. In fact, I think I had already sworn off of it, and I just kind of came back to see his last couple of matches. Um, but other than that, I'm sorry, it doesn't do it for me. I don't like that style of wrestling. I don't think their shows are good. Their pay-per-views are brutally fucking long. The matches are brutally fucking long. Everybody wrestles like they think it's the fucking main event of WrestleMania. Like there's no such thing as just like a nice little 5-minute match. You know, you have shit like the world champion going like 25 minutes with some nobody from the undercard just so it can be a good match. And it's like, why isn't the world champion fucking killing this guy? He's the world champion. And this is a guy who's wrestled on TV like twice in the last year. Why isn't the world champion murdering this guy in 5 minutes? But anyway, no, so I don't watch AEW at all anymore. I watch WWE fairly regularly, but yeah, the fragmentation and the rising costs are, I mean, I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where I can afford that. And I mean, I can afford it because I prioritize it over other things, you know, I mean, but I'm a wrestling fan, so I do that. But no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how many different things you need to have access to in order just to watch, you know, wrestling. It's ridiculous. I don't know how ESPN feels about it. I'm not really sure how it did. I no longer keep track of, you know, what ratings are, or, I mean, I really don't know how WrestlePalooza did financially, you know. I thought in terms of quality, I thought the show was okay. I didn't think it was like the greatest show I'd ever seen, but I thought it was fine. I thought the Io Sky versus Stephanie Vicaire match was fantastic. I really, really liked that match. And the rest of it was okay. You know, there wasn't anything really bad on it, I thought. But no, I don't know how they feel about it. But yes, they did invest a lot of money in it, didn't they? Matthias, would you agree that the idea that speech could be unacceptably hateful and also not threatening or advocating violence is such a niche concept that it's best left for philosophers to theorize over? For better or worse, the democratic principle of freedom of speech is less legally immutable in the UK, and so well-meaning UK politicians have recently sought to carve out an exception for non-violent hate speech. But according to TLDR News, they've just inspired bizarre arrests and confused UK courts. Speech that is unacceptably hateful, but also not threatening or advocating violence. Yeah, I mean, I guess because see, here in the United States, the line, legally speaking, has always been that you're basically allowed to say it as long as you're not advocating violence, or as long as it can't be construed like by a reasonable person as advocating violence. Pretty much anything other than that, you can get away with. There are some exceptions for hate speech, but even, I mean, depending on how you interpret hate speech statutes, you know, hate speech is like the reason why hate speech is not tolerated under freedom of speech in jurisdictions where there are laws against hate speech. It kind of ties back into the threatening violence thing, you know, because you are dehumanizing a group of people, and that leaves them more vulnerable to being mistreated. Like that's one of the justifications for saying hate speech shouldn't be allowed. Because it creates more of a justification in people's minds for, you know, for doing worse to someone than speaking badly about them, you know? So no, I don't know. I mean, it does seem like an awfully fine line. I'm not familiar with the situation in the UK as far as that goes. I can't really speak on that with any specificity, but it seems like a very, very fine line. And I mean, the law is full of fine lines, and that's why we have courts to interpret those sorts of things. But yeah, that's a really thin, like it's hate speech, but it's not threatening violence. So we'll let it, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm glad that it's not my job to decide. KMFB, will you be reviewing the Star Trek Con podcast? I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. I mean, I'll see what I think when it's over. when I've listened to all of it. Right now, I don't really have anything to say about it. Like, I think it's been okay. I haven't I haven't not liked it. It's been fine. The production is terrific. Um, it's not really grabbing me as a story. Like, I don't really give a shit about anything that happens. I mean, I'm not like on the edge of my seat. Oh man, I can't wait till they release the next episode. Like, it's really well done, technically. But that's about it. And I mean, they've got a very the actors are doing a good job. The voice cast is really good, you know. But is this a thing that needs to exist creatively? Is this a story that justifies itself just by how good it is and by how engaging it is to me personally? No. I mean, I'm gonna. I've listened to every episode they've released so far. I'll listen to the rest of them, but unless it really takes a turn and becomes just fucking amazing, I don't really know what I have to say about it, other than what I just said, which is, yeah, it's fine. Some random geek who can't be in the live chat because they got in trouble at work. Shame, shame, shame. Although I did see you in the chat earlier on your phone, apparently. You rebel, you rebel. Breaking the law, breaking the law. On Wednesday, September 17th, I was written up twice for gaming on my work PC. I just mainly lurk in my friend's Twitch chat, but that breaks the company's rule of computers that the company provides are for work purposes only. You cannot use the work PCs for personal use. After my manager came back from a 2-week vacation, he was told I was using the work PCs for gaming while he was gone. And on Wednesday, my manager was just going to write me up once because a production supervisor saw me gaming, but my manager checked on my computer on Wednesday while I was at lunch and saw I was in fact gaming as well. So my manager wrote me up again for that. And I had already been written up before for gaming on the company's computer, so I had my third and final written warning. If I do something again that breaks the company's rules, I will be fired. 3 strikes and you're out. So if I am in the live chat for this Ask Away, I am on my phone to be continued. And that's what you said. You were on your phone. I mean, just watch your ass. I mean, if you're in that situation where if you need this job and you want to keep this job, even though you might not like the job, but you like having, the money that the job pays you, might be worth it to maybe not game or watch people's Twitch streams while you're at work. I'm just saying. I mean, look, I sympathize. I've had shitty jobs where I was interested in everything but what I was supposed to be doing too. I'm not saying you're wrong to feel the way you feel or do what you're doing, but just take care of yourself. Just be smart, Anyway, some random geek who doesn't care if they lack humanity because they celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. Fuck Charlie Kirk. So because I cannot use my work PC for personal use, I can't be in the live chat of these Askaways as I usually do, which may be great news for the liberals in your audience, Steve, because I am not in the live chat to reflexively shit on Democrats. I hate them a lot because I am told that they are a million times better than the Republicans, but they are going to throw the trans folks under the bus because they say that is how we lost the last election, or the North Carolina anti-trans bill that the Democrats helped pass, and how many establishment Democrats have endorsed Zohran Mamdani. And Gavin Newsom loves to throw away unhoused folks' stuff, and also having pleasant conversations with the late Charlie Kirk on why trans women shouldn't be in women's sports. Anyway, someone else has to remind you, Steve, to mention charitylinks.page. And I don't think I can easily copy pasta Joanna or Phoenix's links on my phone. I hate how my time at work isn't my time. But I'm like I said, just be smart. If you can't afford to lose your job, then don't give them an excuse to fire you. It may not be fair, it may not be right, but that is the situation that you are in. So take care of yourself. And yes, I will, of course, be sure, I'll mention it again right now, charitylinks.page, and I will mention it before the end of the show, as always. And look, I'm 100% with you, especially on the Mamdani thing. On the basis of his popularity alone, like, never mind. I mean, politically, I agree with him on everything. I don't see why any progressive would balk at voting for him based on his politics. And if you are like some fucking weak-willed, cowardly centrist Democrat, and you're like, I don't know, he's awfully progressive, he's awfully far to the left. Like, he seems to be really, really popular with a lot of people in New York City. And if your goal is to win elections and gain political power, I don't really see why you would be, balking at endorsing the guy. Like any mainstream Democrat who, has not endorsed him and promised to help him get elected mayor of New York City in any way they can, I don't really see what the excuse is, honestly. I mean, no, I don't see what the legitimate excuse is. There's all kinds of excuses, but I don't see what the legitimate excuse is. Lynn Kibblemom, who finished her 77th year last week and still doesn't know what she wants to be if and when she grows up. Hi, Steve. When I was about 9, I was sitting in the tub about to take a bath when I realized my washcloth was sitting on the counter across the room. As I was debating whether to get out of my warm soapy water to get it, it levitated off the counter, floated across the room, and gently dropped into the tub. I wasn't scared, but I was surprised, since I had only ever seen something like this happen on TV, which I knew wasn't real. I had seen things like this happen on Topper, a show about a couple of mischievous ghosts and their ghostly dog Neil, a perpetually tipsy St. Bernard, but I knew better than to expect to see anything like that in real life. I may have wished I had remembered the washcloth before getting in the tub, but I wasn't consciously willing it to come to me, so I can't attribute it to any latent psychic ability of mine, and nothing else similar has happened to me since. My question is, have you ever personally experienced anything you couldn't explain? And if so, what? When I was very young, I was convinced for a time that I had the ability to teleport from my house where I lived with my parents to my grandparents' house. And I experienced this several times where I would go to bed and I would wake up in the middle of the night and there would be a portal like in my room that led to my Pap and Granny's house. And I would step through the portal and I would climb into the bed that I slept in when I would sleep in Pap and Granny's house. And I would go to sleep there and I would wake up the next morning and I would be at Pap and Granny's house. And so I had magically transported myself through a portal from my parents' house to my grandparents' house. And I sincerely thought that I had this ability it's hard to judge time when you're that young. Maybe a year. I'm not sure. And now what I realize is I was just at Pap and Granny's house having a dream. Like that's all that was. In my dream, I was back home at my parents' house, but I was actually asleep at Pap and Granny's house the entire time. But because I was a little kid, because it was apparently a really realistic dream, and when I woke up the next morning, it seemed to my silly little kid brain that it had actually happened. So, stuff like that. I didn't have an explanation for it other than I was really doing this shit at the time. Now I have an explanation for it. I remember when I was about 12. I had gotten a tent, and I was setting up the tent in the backyard, right? And I was by myself. It was just me setting up my tent, and I was inside the tent doing something, and I heard, like clear as day, as like a voice from outside my head, not like a memory or a voice in my head or like a thought, but from outside my head, I heard crystal clear the voice of my grandfather, who was, and he wasn't dead. He was alive at the time. I heard the voice of my grandfather, and he said Steve-O, which is what he always called me. And I heard him say Steve-O. And I walked outside the tent expecting him to be there, and he wasn't there. And I walked all the way around. I walked up from the backyard to the house, because where I had the tent was some distance from the house. So I had to walk through the backyard and up a hill, and he wasn't there. Like, he was not at our house at all. But I had heard his voice not in my head. I had heard it as though he were there. and he wasn't. And I couldn't explain that for a long time until I learned that there are these things called auditory hallucinations that some people just have. You know, I mean, obviously some people have them related to like a condition, and they have, it's like a symptom of something. But even people who are, you know, healthy cognitively and physically, every once in a while, you might think you hear something that isn't there. And it's, I mean, and every once in, I mean, to the point where it really sounds like it's actually there, not just, you know, oh, what was that? Like you think you heard something, but like you literally hear it as though it's, you know, just like anything else happening out in the world. You hear it as though it, and it sounds real, but it's not. Like your brain has manufactured it. That's just a thing that happens sometimes. And it happened to me. So yes, I mean, weird things have happened to me that I couldn't explain at the time, that I couldn't explain without like appealing to some supernatural thing. But now I've come to realize, oh, that's it's an unusual, but perfectly natural and explicable thing that happened. And I suspect something similar is behind your floating washcloth, but obviously I wasn't there, and I don't know. Agent Meister, stop eating his sesame cake. Random, like, Congo reference. Peldor Joy, Steve, if you watch The Princess Bride, you'll notice a Captain America toy on the shelf behind the bed of Kevin from the Wonder Years. I had that figure and absolutely cherished it when I was a child, and it was because of that I became a lifelong Cap-Am fan. I loved the first Captain America movie from 2011, especially the Indiana Jones-esque feel, and I think it did the character of Steve Rogers justice. I've heard a lot of criticism about it, though, especially the use of the Red Skull and how he was a wasted opportunity. Hugo Weaving would get a standing ovation for me if he only portrayed an inanimate carbon rod. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on his performance and about the first Avenger movie in general. And did you ever read any Cap comics? The runs of Mark Waid and Ed Brubaker are well worth a look. A bit late with this, but R.I.P. Terrence Stamp, another great actor gone, one I feel should have been better known than he was. And stop eating my sesame cake. Delroy Lindo, another great actor. I think the first Captain America movie is terrific. Yeah, no, I think it's terrific. I mean, do people not like the Red Skull in that? I mean, I don't know. I thought the Red Skull was great. I thought Hugo Weaving was perfectly fine as the Red Skull. I don't have any serious problems with Captain America, the First Avenger. I mean, I think they've done better since, but I thought it was terrific. I enjoy the hell out of that movie. But no, I've never actually read a ton of Captain America comics. I've read a few here and there, but I've never read like a long run on the monthly title, like, you know, like the Mark Waid run or the Ed Brubaker run. But I will have to correct that at some point. But no, I love the movie. I love the first movie. David Colby, the galaxy's strongest hater. Am I so pure a hater that I take pleasure in Strange New Worlds season 3's critical reception tanking? Am I currently, right now, gloating about the fact a show I don't like is becoming disliked? No. I may be the strongest hater, but I am also one of the most humble and magnanimous geniuses to have ever lived, and in victory, I am willing to show grace to even my defeated enemies. I am sorry Strange New Worlds Season 3 didn't measure up, Steve, and I hope Season 4 gets better. I do have one question. Why the fuck do modern authors feel this urge to explain things that don't need explanations? Like, guys, there's no need to explain why Spock and Kirk are friends. They're friends because, get this, they're friends. They serve together for years and they get along and work well together. Do these people not know how friends work? Do they assume everyone has to have some magical reason to be friends, e.g. a mind meld? That's fucking depressing. I don't want to say I blame George Lucas, but I blame George Lucas. I don't blame George Lucas, like, for real, but I do think that the making of the Star Wars prequels and the financial success of the Star Wars prequels, if not the critical success, warped a lot of people's conception of what people wanted out of a movie, especially like a fantasy movie, a sci-fi movie, that kind of thing. It's not just as you point out, it's not just a Strange New Worlds thing or a Star Trek thing or a Star Wars thing. There are a lot of TV and movie writers, especially when they're working in genre pieces or they're working on franchises or, established IP type of things. They mistake explaining for storytelling. Telling a story does not consist of explaining things to the audience. Now, that can be a part of it, and sometimes that has to be a part of it. There are times when you need an audience to know something and to understand something so that something else that happens in the story means what it's supposed to mean. Like that is a part of it. But just explaining why something happened or explaining or doing a prequel and offering an explanation for something from the thing that it's a prequel to, that in and of itself is not worth doing. Like, I completely agree with you. Oh, you ever wonder how Spock and Kirk got to be friends? No. No. I always assumed they were assigned to the same ship and they got to know each other and they became friends the way people become friends. Silly me. Like, that's kind of what I thought happened. You ever wonder where he got his trademark jacket? He got the jacket at some point and he wore it for a long time and he liked it. Or someone gave it to him as a gift, like for a birthday or Christmas or something, and he wore it for a long time and it just kind of became his jacket. Like, does it need to? No, he was given it by his mentor right before his mentor was blown up. Oh, okay. Really? Does it need to be that? So yeah, I there's a lot of confusing explaining with storytelling. Most mundane things that are part of like everyday human experience, like having friends, don't need like specific origin stories. And it's a huge waste of time to indulge in that. JDC, hey Steve, hope you're doing well. I'm tempted to ask a media criticism question, but I think the answer would just depress me. Instead, since I've been binging retro tech videos to avoid, you're a guy who makes his living on the internet. What was your first computer? My first computer was a Commodore 64 that I got for my 9th birthday. And by the time I got it, it was already out of date. Like I turned 9 in 1989. And by 1989, the Commodore 64 was definitely no longer the state of the art. But God, I love that thing. I loved that computer more than any computer that I have had since. All due respect to the computer I have right now. My computer that I have right now knows that I love it. Okay, we're cool. But nothing will ever replace that Commodore 64 in my heart. And yeah, I mean, it's the only computer that I ever felt like I wanted to say goodbye to. Like, there came a time when I finally upgraded. My parents got me a new computer, a better computer, a Windows computer, right? That would be a lot more useful and was a lot more useful to me, practically speaking, and could do a lot more things than the Commodore could. But I love that Commodore 64 so much. It's the only computer I've ever had that I miss. Like, I miss having it. So yeah, that was my first computer, the Commodore 64. The Grumpy Monkey, time for a rant. Last Ask Away, someone inquired about stuff you refuse to buy due to overexposure. For me, it's Star Wars. I am shit sick of this franchise. I could never get into it, and last time I tried, I fell asleep halfway through Empire. I saw Phantom Menace and Force Awakens in theaters, mainly because I had nothing else to do, and both did nothing for me, but it really shit the bed when Disney took over. The constant churning out of streaming shows and the oversaturation of ads on radio, TV, and YouTube for same, the wall-to-wall merchandise and toy, book, and clothes stores, the YouTube algorithm constantly trying to get me to watch the myriad videos by douchebags like the Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic about how Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are killing the franchise and by extension Western civilization. All this and the fact that some Star Wars fans are among the most toxic online. If I never see a fucking lightsaber again, it'll be too soon. Okay, rant over. And are you sleeping okay? Getting enough fiber? I'm sleeping great, and I get plenty of fiber because I take a daily dose of Metamucil. That's my secret. I mean, I don't agree with everything you say in your rant, but I agree with some of it, and I appreciate that you felt, able to share it with us. I think that's good, and I hope that, as my very good friend Jason Harding likes to say, I hope you got the poison out, and I respect you, for it. Matthias via YouTube, thanks for your videos on disability. They seem more pertinent now than ever. Would you agree that the debate over whether certain vaccines and medications cause autism has been far too focused on validity and not enough on asking what the problem would be if they did? RFK makes neurodivergence sound like a justification for abortion instead of unique types of thought that society would be better embracing. Ironically, the neurotypical powers that be would have to be more empathetic and open-minded for that, though. Yes and no. I mean, people definitely make neurodivergence sound like a fate worse than death. I mean, it is really absurd the way, I mean, especially if you listen to RFK describe like what he calls full-blown autism. I mean, it's fear-mongering is what it is. And the fact is the overwhelming majority of people who experience some form or another of neurodivergence are leading happy lives, are just fine. They may need some accommodations, but that's okay. We shouldn't have a problem with that as a society. So no, I mean, I do think that it's important for people to know that vaccines are safe and that they do not have side effects that doctors are not telling them about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not that autism itself is like a terrible thing that should be avoided at all costs, but if people are saying that vaccines cause autism and they don't, which they don't, I do think that message should be, repeated over and over again. Not because there's anything, absolutely awful and terrible and, nightmarishly bad about autism in every case, but just because that's not true. And people are using that and using the fear of this, boogeyman version of autism to scare people away from vaccines and to push an anti-medicine, anti-science agenda. That I do think that narrative needs to be, done away with. That, well, vaccines cause autism. Like, I do think that needs to be remedied, not because autism is the worst thing that could ever happen, but just because it's a lie and it's based on bad science and, conspiracy theorist type thinking. But I agree with you that just generally speaking, there's way too much fear mongering about autism and about neurodivergence in general. You're absolutely right about that. James B. Do Patrick Stewart and Famke Janssen's excellent performances and chemistry serve to gloss over the problematic themes in The Perfect Mate? Yes. I mean, they certainly make the episode very watchable and very enjoyable, despite those problematic elements. So in that sense, I agree with you. I mean, the problematic stuff is still there, and I think it's still worth talking about. But yeah, I really enjoy that episode. I really enjoy that episode. And yes, I do think it's primarily because the actors do such a good job of selling it. But, the problematic stuff is still there and it still deserves to be discussed. Jim P. Hi, Steve. As a Star Trek commentator yourself, I'm sure you've heard some interesting reviews, theories, and takes. Which one stands out and is your favorite? And what makes it stand out to you? Have a great rest of the show. It's not a review. I guess it's a theory. It was from earlier this year when Strange New Worlds was still coming out. The third season was still being released. And one of these fucking poor souls who is stuck writing clickbait articles for one of these bullshit, entertainment websites, wrote an article that was recommended to me like on my Google front page on my phone, because I guess Google said, this guy likes Star Trek, he'll eat this slop up. And the article was written it was advocating for the theory that because Captain Battelle had the Gorn babies inside of her, and then when Dr. Mbenga realized that the only way to save her was to permanently hybridize Battelle with the Gorn, so she would be like a hybrid human Gorn from then on. Like, once that episode came out, again, I don't want to blame the person who wrote it because they did a terrible, terrible thing. But in this economy, I could understand. Like, there's pressures, people. I wish that people wouldn't write these bullshit clickbait articles, but I can't necessarily get mad at the writer as much as I can get mad at the people hiring them to do it, and just the fact that there exists an ecosystem in which this kind of thing can actually be profitable. But their theory was that Captain Battelle would be changed and mutated by this hybridization with the Gorn, and that she would eventually become the Gorn captain from the episode Arena that Captain Kirk fights. And that would explain why that Gorn is so different than the Gorn that we have seen in Strange New Worlds. So we're still on this bullshit. Why is it different? Like, we're still hanging on to this childish bullshit. Why is it different? It's supposed to be the same world. Why is it different? I think someone who writes something like that should be punished in an extreme but nonviolent way. Like, I don't think they should be harmed. I don't think they should be injured in a way that will affect the rest of their life, but maybe just they're the kind of person that just for even having that thought, you should be shoved into a locker for like a long time. You should be given a swirly. You should be subjected to high school justice as a result of this. I mean, okay, maybe you have the thought. Okay, sometimes people have thoughts. That's fine. You have the thought. Maybe Battelle will turn out to be the Gorn from Arena. You have the thought. You couldn't help it. It just came into your head. Don't say it. Or if you do say it to your friends in private. Have people around you who love you and who you can trust to say these things, to get it out. Don't write it in an article and post it on the internet. So yeah, that's one that has stuck with me. When I read it and I was just like, you should be very, very ashamed of what you have done. that was my thought. The person who did this, I know maybe you're in a tough situation and you felt like you had to do this, but you should be very ashamed of what you have done. Donkey Hody, here's a head scratcher for you. Besides the fact that Fred Trump never would have allowed it, what if Donald would have burned his draft card and joined up with the peace-loving hippies? Do you think we'd have a better sort of person? He would still have been rich unless his dad would have monetarily cut him off. I thought about this while I was rewatching Hair the Musical. I mean, I do tend to think that we are products of our experiences, so I would like to think that Trump would be different today if he had gone that route. I don't know how different he would be. I don't know how much those experiences would have influenced him versus the influence of his upbringing under the watchful eye of Fred Trump and Mama Trump, whatever the fuck her name was. So, I mean, I would like to think he would be different. Maybe he would be better. I don't know. But I do think that we are, in large part, products of our experiences. I'm not a fucking eugenicist like Trump is. It's in the genes. I don't really think that's it, or at least that's not all of it. So, yeah, I would like to think he would have been different, but who knows? Don Quixote, hi, Steve. No Patreon question this time. Just wanted to say truly sorry the O's didn't make much of a showing this season. Hope they do better next year. Phillies are going all the way this time. Fingers crossed, unless they don't. Well, look, you don't have to offer. I appreciate it, but I mean, I'm an O's fan. You're a Phillies fan, so you know what it's like to. I mean, not lately, but historically, you know what it's like to have just a team that's just hopeless. So, I mean, I thank you for your thoughts, but it's not necessary. I'm used to it. And yeah, go Phillies. They ran away with the division this year. I think they had the second best record, like in all of baseball. The Phillies have been on fire. So best of luck to you. I hope they go all the way too. I'm rooting for the Phillies. Andy Lawler, who is just about at the end of his goddamn rope because of gestures around vaguely this bullshit. Hey, Steve, me try submit short question. Practice for new word limit. Why use many word when few word do trick? If eggs are part of your meat day meals, what's your preferred preparation? I like over easy, especially when there's a bread product on the plate to sop up that yolky goodness. Thanks and have a great weekend, everybody. I prefer over medium, but it's the same idea. Yeah, you want to have a nice warm runny yolk that you can sop up with the bread. I'm 100% with you there. Absolutely. My favorite way to eat eggs, unless I'm getting it like as an egg sandwich or something. Like if I get an egg sandwich, obviously you're going scrambled. Or if I make an egg sandwich, obviously you're going scrambled. But when it's like eggs on a plate, eggs over medium, a little sprinkle of salt and pepper, and some toast, eggs and toast. And yeah, you break the yolk, get the yolk runny out on the plate, sop it up with the toast, finish off the egg white. Oh, beautiful, beautiful breakfast. I think that may be my favorite breakfast. It's a nice, simple, like 2 or 3 eggs over medium, couple of pieces of toast, cup of coffee. There you go. Maybe a hash brown, maybe. If I feel like waiting for the oven to preheat to cook a nice crispy hash brown. Kara the Tolkien nerd. Hi, Steve. A quick question this time about the TOS series. The UK are showing or have shown series almost constantly for the past 2.5 years, which is great, if only for nostalgia. I think there are 2 episodes where Scotty really shines. These are the Galileo 7, with his belief and faith in Spock as the commanding officer, even if Spock is manifestly terrible at it. But I think that Scotty's finest hour is in A Taste of Armageddon, when he shows what the penalty would be for defying Ambassador Fox. I think he'd be sent to a rehab colony or prison if things had gone wrong, but he does it anyway. There are probably other episodes where Scotty really shows his mettle, but would like to know your thoughts about the above 2 episodes. I really like both episodes, especially Galileo 7. It's interesting that you mentioned Scotty in the context of Galileo 7, because that's usually remembered as a Spock episode. And of course, Spock and McCoy have some interactions in that one. But yeah, Scotty's good in that too. I never really think of that as like a Scotty episode, but that Scotty's good in that too. So I really like both episodes, but especially Galileo 7. Galileo 7 is one of my favorite TOS episodes. Captain Sass, thank you for your answer to my previous question. I've been a fan of your channel for some time now. I can't remember if I came for your early Trek vids or your politics, but one led to the other. My favorite politics videos were the Facepalm 5. Being from the UK, they gave me insight into what was going on in the US that wasn't being reported here. I understand why you stopped making it, and I'm not asking you to bring it back, but my question is, if you were to make it now, how much more difficult do you think it would be to pick 5 each week now? Boy. Oh, yeah, I used to say the hardest part was picking only 5. That would be true times 10 these days. My God, I could do a Facepalm 5 every day at this point. I mean, I'm not going to do that, but there's enough material that I probably could. I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, I watch Seth Meyers on late night, and it's late night. Yeah, it's Conan O'Brien's old show, Late Night with Seth Meyers. And I think twice a week, 3 times a week, they have a segment called A Closer Look, where he's riffing on current events. And I watch those, and of course they're always brilliant and hilarious. And I always think, God damn, how do they only do like 2 or 3 of these a week? I mean, how could you not do one every fucking day with all of this bullshit going? Like, just, there's just so much awfulness and so much material. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, if I were doing the Facepalm 5 like I was doing several years, yeah, it would be even more difficult than it was back then to pick 5. Absolutely. Russell, hey Steve, first off, not a question, but I wanted to be clear. I celebrate no one's death, period, for any reason. I also didn't shed a tear over his death. And we're talking about Charlie Kirk here, I believe. That being said, I wanted to focus today's question on all the school shootings or random shootings. We have had 4 near my hometown since the last Q&A. I know where you stand with guns and defunding the police, so how would you recommend we solve this problem? It's not a small number if you take into account the USA as a whole. I feel stricter regulations combined with defunding the police leaves innocent people a target. I also get a little peeved when people are more concerned about criminals and their rights than those of innocent people. I don't know, take DeCarlos Brown Jr., for example. So what is your solution to dealing with these types of problems? That's all I have for you on this one. Take care. And DeCarlos Brown Jr. is the man who stabbed the Ukrainian woman to death on the subway a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure what you're citing him as. Are people too worried about his rights, in your opinion? I'm not really sure what you're citing him as an example for. I mean, look, I don't know. I don't have a solution for how to solve the problem, but I know that reducing the number of guns in people's hands is going to help. I mean, we have a truly ridiculous number of guns in the hands of private citizens. And by the way, as a parallel problem, a completely overly militarized police force. I mean, that's a problem as well. I'm not trying to say that's not a problem, but we have a completely unreasonable, ridiculous number of guns in people's hands throughout this country. Guns are incredibly easy to get through legal or illegal means. And the main reason why that's true is because there are so many goddamn guns in the hands of so many goddamn people. And if you want a basic reason why this country has such a problem with gun violence, including mass shootings, including school shootings, it's that. It's because it's really fucking easy for almost anybody to get their hands on a gun. Not necessarily legally buy a gun, although in many cases it's easy to do that too. And lots of shooters do their crimes with guns they have legally purchased, even recently, like prior to their committing their crime. But even if you're not buying one, it's easy to get your hands on one. How many kids have shot up their school using their parents' gun or their grandparents' gun or a gun they stole from someone who had one? How many criminals, whether they're doing a school shooting or not, how many criminals have committed gun crimes using guns that are not their property, but they're the guns that they just helped themselves to because they knew they were available, because somebody else had one and they knew they could get it, right? That's a huge part of the problem. And that, I think, will necessarily be a part of the solution, is addressing that, is reducing the number of guns in society. Now, how are we going to do that? There are many ways we could do it. We'll probably have to try a little bit of everything because the problem is so out of control, because there are so many guns and because we have been so inexcusably permissive about gun ownership in this country for so long. So I don't see how you fix the problem without addressing that. And as for defunding the police, there are reasons for defunding the police that are not related to mass shootings or school shootings. And I think you could very easily make the argument that the police have not been a ton of help when it comes to preventing school shootings. Like, do you really think that? I'm terribly sorry that you have had that many school shootings in your area, just in the last couple of weeks. That's truly horrifying. Would more funding for the police have helped prevent those? Do you think? Like, what is the argument for not only not defunding the police, but like giving the police more of what they already have? How would that help the mass shooting situation? Like, police in general don't prevent crime. They respond to crime after it's already happened. So if we're not going to be passing more gun regulations to prevent guns from getting into more people's hands, like, what are the cops doing exactly? So, yeah, I mean, I totally reject it'll only leave innocent people a target. I totally reject that. Innocent people are targets of cops, by the way. Like, that's one of the reasons why people want to defund the police, because innocent people are harmed by the police. So, I mean, there's a lot of interlocking issues here. But no, I do not think that it is I do not think you are presenting a compelling case for just leaving the police alone, or for not reforming the police in some very significant way, and also for not implementing stricter gun regulations. Brian Baker, Steve, dissent is the only acceptable reaction to further onslaughts from the Trump administration and its march toward dictatorship. We must all hang together, or surely we will all hang separately, as said founding father Benjamin Franklin. Let's try to remember that. Good luck and great job on the coverage. Thank you, Brian. Yes, let's all try to remember what Ben Franklin said. I agree with that completely. And as I said earlier, like, do not give these people, these fascists, these Trump people, do not give them any more than you absolutely have to. Do not let them take from you. Do not give them what they could not take from you if they fought for it. Like, just make it as difficult for them as you possibly can. Russell, that annoyance who is taking advantage of his last two Q&As. Hey, Steve, this one is a break from the real world and just an opinion question. I recently rewatched Night of the Living Dead and the reboot, and found that once, possibly the one time, maybe you can think of another, where the reboot was better than the original. Now, maybe you have a difference of opinion. Maybe you've never seen either of these films. Please, my friend, don't insult me. But if you have, what are your thoughts on them? Also, was going to comment on your video about Voyager ending in 5 seasons, or possibly coming home too soon to exist inside TNG and DS9's region of space. Me personally, while that sounds neat and all, I think it would have been too much fan service. Just my 2 cents. See you at the show. And again, thanks for what you do and having the patience to deal with those even when we differ on opinions. Well, I agree with you about your comments on Voyager. Despite my oft expressed feelings about Voyager and not thinking it was that great of a show most of the time, I think it would have been a horrible decision to bring it back to the Alpha Quadrant before the very, very end of the show. I just think that's ridiculous that was even considered. Of course, I've seen Night of the Living Dead and the remake. I do disagree with you. I don't think the remake is a 10th of the movie that the original is. I think the original Night of the Living Dead is a classic, is one of the great horror movies ever made. I think the remake is okay. It's fine, but it doesn't even compare. It doesn't, I don't even think about it. Like, I think about the original a lot. I really like the original Night of the Living Dead. I think it's just a great fucking movie. I've seen the remake a few times. I never think about it. Like, it just means nothing to me. It's fine. It's an entertaining movie. It's a fine thing to watch. It's got Tony Todd in it. It's got Patricia Tallman in it. Like, those are great actors. But I mean, like, as a movie, okay. Good for you. Hey, Tom Savini got to direct a zombie movie. Good for him. But I mean, it's nothing compared to the original for me. But as for remakes that were better than the original, I can think of a couple examples right off the top of my head, and they are both also horror movies. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which is, of course, a remake of The Thing from Another World. And David Cronenberg's The Fly, which is a remake of The Fly. from the 1950s with Vincent Price. I think both of those are significantly better than the original. In fact, a lot of people might also say the 1970s version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is superior to the original. I really, really like both. Like for me, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a closer call because I think both versions are just fantastic. I really, really like the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But even though like the body snatcher thing doesn't really make a lot of sense, like if you think about the pod people thing doesn't really make a lot. They changed the rules a little bit, but whatever. I really like it. But no, I think the remakes of The Fly and The Thing are both way better than the originals. And those are, I'm sure there are other examples I can think of too, but just off the top of my head are those two. The Wandering Wedding Goer. So, hey, random question. I know you've mentioned being divorced before, but what do you think about the idea of marriage as a social and legal construct? Do you think it's just a piece of paper, or did you place a huge emphasis on the wedding when you were married / engaged? Just curious. Hope the week finds you well with, well, everything going on. For me personally, well, you said wedding. For me personally, the wedding was not a big deal at all. And anything that, especially if it was something that my wife-to-be wanted, then I was completely fine with it and fully supportive of it. If it was something that neither she nor I ourselves wanted, but I felt like it was being imposed on us by other people in our family, then I absolutely hated that and resisted it as much as I could. That was the only part of it I didn't like. Like the way I saw it, this is our wedding, it's our party, we're deciding what it's going to be, and you're invited. We didn't ask you for your input, but some of you have decided to offer it anyway. And I really don't fucking appreciate that. But we ended up having the wedding we wanted. And despite the fact that we are now divorced, I still have very fond memories of our wedding. I think our wedding was great. It was very small, very quiet, very intimate. And it was just how we wanted it. And I thought it was wonderful. So no, I think I am perfectly happy to let people define what it means for themselves. I mean, the idea of marriage as a social and legal construct. It means whatever the people getting married need it to mean. I think it's good that it exists. I think it's good that people can avail themselves of it and avail themselves of benefits associated with it. I have no problem with that. I think it's good and positive that it is open and available to people of all orientations and all identities. I don't think it should be strictly a heterosexual cisgender thing. I think that's a terribly discriminatory attitude that unfortunately a lot of people still have, but fuck those people. But no, I think marriage should mean whatever it means to the people getting married. So if having a particular kind of wedding is important to the people getting married, then that's what it should be for them. If they are happy just going to the courthouse and getting married in a very simple civil ceremony, then that's what it should be for them. And however they view their marriage, however they choose to define their relationship and their association with each other among themselves, they should be free to do that however they want. I think it should be whatever the people involved in it want it and need it to be. So, you know, I am not a dismissive, like, it's just a piece of paper person, but I am also not someone who's like, you know, I would never dream of like saying to people who are together, oh, you guys should get married. I've never even had that thought. And if I did have that thought, I would immediately have the thought after that, it's none of your fucking business. Like, it's not for you to tell other people what they should be doing with their lives. So those are basically my extremely disordered, off the top of my head thoughts about marriage. Caitlin L., I couldn't think of a proper question, but I wanted to wish you and everyone watching well. Let's see. I recently started the Red Dwarf revival, which I'd never seen, despite really enjoying the original episodes. Have you seen Red Dwarf? If so, do you like it? I have never watched Red Dwarf. Not because I'm avoiding it, just because it's one of those shows that I just haven't gotten around to watching it. There are a lot of those. There are a lot of shows that I'm sure I would enjoy that I will hopefully get around to at some point, but I just haven't gotten around to yet. So I'm not like not watching it on purpose. I just haven't watched it. Stargate is another show like that. I watched the first episode of Stargate SG-1. That's all I've ever seen of Stargate. And I liked it. I watched the first episode and thought, this is pretty good. I never watched any more of it. Again, not because I didn't like it, just because I didn't prioritize it. I mean, obviously it didn't like hook me to the point where I was like, oh my God, I have to see more. I liked it. And then I didn't watch the rest of it. For many years, Doctor Who was like that. And I'm still not all the way through the new Doctor Who. I'm still, the last time I stopped watching it, I was still in the middle of the Matt Smith seasons. I like it. Like what I've watched of it, I like. And I'm sure I'll get around to watching the rest of it at some point. But I mean, it is what it is, you know? So no, I've never watched Red Dwarf, but if I ever get around to watching it, I will let you know. And I hope it lives up and it is the wonderful show that so many people have told me that it is. Simon Moody. Is Bruce Wayne selfish for not killing the Joker when he knows for a racing certainty he will escape again and kill more people? Is he putting his own moral comfort ahead of the common good and lives, or is his no-killing policy right even for the likes of the Joker? Good question. In my personal opinion, from an in-universe perspective, like if I imagine myself as a citizen of Gotham City, yes, I think Batman is being selfish, and yes, I think he is putting his moral comfort ahead of the common good. I think the Joker has proven himself to be so dangerous and so deadly and so incorrigible that I know I wouldn't be mad at Batman if he just pushed him off a fucking building one night. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be like, oh no, Batman's crossed the line. I'd be like, oh, Batman killed the Joker. About fucking time. So yes, in that sense, I do think that he is choosing his own moral comfort ahead of doing what's right. But as a writer and as an audience member, of course, I don't want him to kill the Joker. If anything, I like having that tension. I think that tension is really good, dramatically speaking. You know, give Batman a character, give Batman a code that he lives by without exception, or with very, very few exceptions, that he doesn't kill people. That's a line that he does not cross. That's a noble, moral, heroic stand to take. And then give him a character like the Joker that makes that noble, moral stand look kind of dumb, you know? Like the Joker is so bad and so beyond redemption that you're like, I mean, come on, that guy, come on, Batman, like just make an exception. And Batman still refuses to, but he struggles. I mean, I'm sure sometimes he's tempted, right? I mean, he was tempted when the Joker killed Robin, right? So, I mean, I think it's good for the story. It's good for drama. It's good for the narrative. But if I were like living in that world, I'd be like, come on, Batman. Like, let's go. I don't give a fuck about your morals. Kill this motherfucker, you know? So it depends on the perspective. But yes, from an in-world perspective, I think he's definitely choosing his own comfort over doing a good thing for the rest of the world. This is Air One Fire for the Pork Chop Express saying it's all in the reflexes. Hi, Steve. I've been running several social media accounts for a while now, trying to fight back a little. And am I the only one for whom actually fighting back instead of just passively observing how shitty things are isn't at all depressing, but kind of great, kind of exciting? Do you have that feeling? Like we're part of the resistance or something? Is this how Nazis felt for the last 80 years as they've been working to destroy our civilization? Also, since these are my last 1,000 characters, I'm Captain Kirk, and I will make them pay for what they've done. And fuck the Nazi parasites in the White House, and thank you for a fantastic 2.5 years or so. Well, thank you for being around for the last 2.5 years, and hopefully you're around for a lot longer too. It's good to have you around. And I believe next time is still 1,000 characters as well, because this is 198. 199 is 1,000 characters as well. And then 200 is the one where it becomes 500 characters. So you still have another 1,000 character one left. No, I agree. It's definitely, I mean, look, I do not in any way flatter myself by saying I'm part of the resistance. Like, I make YouTube videos, and I'm not saying that's nothing, but I make YouTube videos. So I try to use my platform to speak out and to do some good. And yes, it does feel good. It does feel good to know that at least I'm doing something. At least I'm not just sitting here jacking off and pretending that everything's okay and just making videos about nothing. You know, I'm trying to push back in whatever little way I can. Yeah, it feels good. I try not to get a big head about it. I would recommend that nobody else get too full of themselves over it. But yeah, it definitely beats the, it would be nice if we didn't have to. It would be nice if we were not in this situation as a society. But given that this is where we are, yes, speaking out, pushing back, fighting back beats the hell out of just withdrawing and pretending it's not happening or complaining but not actually trying to help. I agree 100%. And last question from Captain. Hi, Steve. I waited until the last minute and don't want to waste my question this time around, so I thought you'd enjoy this mildly funny anecdote. When you made the video a while back, from memory since I'm rushing, an AI or something where you were talking to the state of Maryland, geez, I can barely remember, but it was funny. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. Anyway, you had a whole bit there about how the patch on your hat was upside down. I thought it was a goofy joke based on the fact that the Maryland flag is vertically symmetrical. It hadn't dawned on me until a few weeks ago when you were referencing that bit that I realized that wasn't a joke. You were candidly talking about the patch being upside down. That's when I finally looked it up and realized I was wrong. It's not quite symmetrical, is it? Silly me. Well, that's it. Thanks for everything you do, and thanks for being one of my anchors of sanity in this insane world. Don't stop, be Steven. Thank you very much. I mean, look, don't you feel bad, because I have lived in Maryland my entire life, and I have always been, as many Marylanders are, unreasonably proud of our flag. I tell you with no exaggeration and without a hint of irony or jest in my voice, it's the best flag in the world. It's my favorite flag. The Maryland flag is the best flag. Every other flag is shit on the shoe of the Maryland flag. And I legitimately did not realize that the fucking patch was upside down until after it was already glued on the hat. That's real. So, you know, don't feel too bad, because like Mr. Maryland flag is the best. I mean, I made this hat. This patch is on this hat because I put it there. All right. And I didn't realize until after it was on. Oh shit. It's upside down. The little gold thing should be on the left and up instead of on the right and down. Oops. So, but thank you for sharing. I mean, it's still way worse that I did it, because I'm from Maryland and I am a huge champion of the Maryland flag. But yes, it's, you know, it looks like it looks symmetrical, doesn't it? Like it's like there's no upside down. It would be, nope. It's not though, is it? It's just a little different. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the last of the patron questions. Thank you all so much for being patrons and members. Now, let me reset the live chat now before I show you the Stuffy video, because the live chat always craps out on me. And I always have to stop in the middle, like before I actually start answering your questions. So let me go ahead and just take care of that now. So then when I'll show you the Stuffy video and then come back, and by the time we get back, it'll all be good again. It's resetting itself now. Come on, baby. Show me them. There it is. Yeah. Show me them chat messages. Okay. Anyway, I'll get back to that in a second. But first, it's that time of the show once again. I have answered all of the questions from my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members. I will turn to the live chat for the rest of the show in just a few minutes. But first, it's time, once again, for a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. So this will go up on its own as a standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow. But because you are watching Ask Away live right here, right now, you get to see it before anybody else. So please do enjoy. this brand new Stuffy and Friends short.
It's not the end of the world. You have other shirts.
I know, but that one was my favorite. I've got no clue what could have happened to it.
Got no clue about lots of things, though, haven't you?
Uh-oh. Amber Alert. 4 years old, male, brown eyes. Oh, wait, it's in Frederick County. What are the odds one of us is going to see this? Oh, Jesus.
What?
Does this vehicle description sound familiar to you?
Well, I mean, yes, it does sound a little bit.
Exactly like my truck. Do you think? Did I do this?
Of course not.
Probably.
How could you have abducted this child yet carry no memory of the deed? Is your soul black enough to shroud such a heinous act?
I mean, I want to say no, but what if it's like a multiple personality situation? Look, it says the kid was last spotted 2 hours ago. That's plenty of time for me to have gone to Frederick County, grabbed the kid, and gotten back here. What if I was in a dissociative state when I did it, and that's why I don't remember it now? You don't think... Could I be hiding him here? Is he somewhere in this house?
I think you're letting your imagination run away with you. Look, the license plate associated with the vehicle in the Amber Alert is different from yours.
Oh, there are a million possible reasons why someone could have written down the wrong plate, Stuffy. Focus on the actual problem.
Meaning your rapid onset, undiagnosed dissociative disorder?
Exactly. And most importantly, where I've hidden the child I took. He could be anywhere. He could be in the basement.
Anyone fancy ordering a pizza?
Will there also be cheesy breadsticks?
You bet your bloody black Bavarian bollocks there will.
I'm in, but maybe we should wait until whatever's going on with Steve resolves itself.
And what are we waiting on exactly? He's off his nut. We all know there's not a hustler's chance in hell he's going to find anything in the basement.
Oh my God. Look what I found behind the dryer.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Oh, can we get cheesy breadsticks? Good old Stuffy version of me. Anyway, so there was a super chat came in earlier from Durath Vol. Thank you, Durath, for your generosity. He said the very same system that would hunt Batman down for killing the Joker is the same system that never hunted the Joker as vigorously or sentenced him to the death penalty. Good point. Why are we getting mad at Batman? And also, Don Quixote, looks like just recently you sent out 5 gift memberships. Thank you very much for that, my friend. All right, let's see who else has had things to say. Some random geek said the Joker is an overrated character, in my opinion. You know who else? Dana. Dana is well on record as saying that she finds the Joker to be a greatly overrated character. Stephen G. Glenard, how many people died when the Joker stole that pro surfer surfing prowess and ended up in a surfing contest against Batman? Exactly. I mean, he murdered some waves, didn't he? Simon Moody says, but note he is not devoted enough to have gotten a new hat and patch and got it right. No, I'm going to wear this one out first. I'm going to wear this one out. And then if I decide to replace it with another Maryland patch hat, then I'll make damn sure I get it right the next time. Philip Kehoe says, Hugh Grant was also in Restoration, but it was the 90s. If there was a film set somewhere in England, Hugh Grant just showed up. Yeah, I think he was, contractually required to be in every movie, certainly every movie involving British people in the 90s. Brelly Go says, is Stuffy a childhood plush of yours? Yes, he is. Stuffy has been with me for many, many years. Many, many, many years. 255 AD said, is it risky to advocate for gun control when the Trump administration is talking about disarming minorities? I mean, I think there are ways of resisting the Trump administration while also making efforts to address the gun problem. But I also acknowledge that it's not going to be possible to meaningfully address that problem while people like Trump are in charge of the federal government. I mean, there are certain things, there are more things that states can do, but state gun regulations are extremely limited for obvious reasons, because they're only good within the borders of a state, and people can come and go freely between states. So state law is only going to do so much. Like the real true reform needs to be at the federal level, and that's just not going to happen while Trump is in charge. While the Republicans are in charge of Congress, it's just not going to happen. So I don't know if it's necessarily risky. It's probably not. It's not going to bear any fruit for a while, unfortunately. Not that it was bearing fruit before. Darby says cheesy breadsticks, get more pizza with your pizza. Exactly. You understand. Caitlin, yeah, that's basically what it's like. Getting an Amber Alert, you get a really, really urgent notification on your phone. Like if a text message is like one little buzz, then an Amber Alert is like 3 or 4 buzzes right in a row, like bam, 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 bam. And yeah, and it's like, oh, Amber Alert. And it's usually like, you know, in your general area, but probably not right where you live, you know. But yeah, that's basically what it's like to get one. Oh, some random geek. As far as a remake, what about both Manchurian Candidate movies? Both are awesome in my view. Oh, I agree. I do like them both. I wouldn't say the remake is better though. I like the remake. I think the remake is really good. But I think the original Manchurian Candidate, I think, is my favorite. How you gonna beat Angela Lansbury in that movie? God damn. Super chat from Kirok. Thank you, my friend, as always. We can agree to disagree. I thought the reboot had a few different takes that I enjoy. Also, Little Shop of Horrors was a better reboot. I'll go along with that. Yeah. I like the remake of Little Shop better than the original. I mean, I will admit neither one of them is a personal favorite of mine, but I do think the remake is better. Steve Martin as the dentist. That's a part of it that I do really like. David French says, I have a question for you. Have you thought about doing an additional video on your video to past tense from Deep Space Nine, since it seems like we might actually be creating sanctuary cities? Oh, man. Maybe. I mean, I would have to come up with something to say about it that would be worth doing an entire video. So it would have to be more than, oh, shit, this is maybe kind of happening. I would have to really dig into it and think of like a lucid, substantial thesis and something to say. But no, I mean, it's definitely worth thinking about. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the suggestion. Jay Duncan says, hey, Steve, I'm Guinevere, Jenny for short. That makes sense. Jay Duncan. A young trans woman stuck in a not-so-friendly section of Texas. Your videos make my days so much brighter. Any advice for remaining hopeful in these times? Oh, boy. Well, first of all, I'm glad I can help in any way that I am helping. I'm welcome. I'm glad you're here. Any advice for remaining hopeful? God, I mean, seek out things that give you hope in your own life, like things that give you joy. Things that make you feel glad to be here. Things that make you feel, human and optimistic, and include whether it's like an activity or a group of people or music or a film or a show, or just seek out things that make you feel better, that give you hope. And on a larger scale, I would say, try to hang on. Try to remember that no matter what anybody else says, you have a right to be here, and you have a right to be happy, and you have a right to live your life as who you are, no matter what anybody says. and try to remember that this too shall pass. That as bad as it is, and it's, it's pretty fucking bad, especially for vulnerable people and for marginalized people. Like, I say it's bad as a fucking white dude who doesn't have very many problems. It's obviously really, really bad for a lot of people who aren't like me. But it won't be this way forever. It won't be this way forever. Now, and every time I say that, I have to add, now it's up to us to make it better. It's not going to get better all by itself. But history shows us that there are ebbs and flows, that there are peaks and valleys, and it will not be like this forever. So just, try to hang on the best you can and do what you can as you're able, and hang on to those things that are personal to you, that give you hope. Jim Jensen says, I was thrown off the horse since the death of Heath Ledger, as I heard that it wouldn't only have been preventable, as more it was triggered by will. That killed my fun. Well, I think the whole episode was kind of sad, wasn't it? Oh, Daryl, fuck yeah, buddy. This is a great question. What's your fave Bruce Springsteen album? Oh, I like the 3 before Born in the USA. That is Nebraska, The River, and Darkness on the Edge of Town. And can't choose one over the other. I'll choose, since you asked, I will choose for you, because it's Darkness on the Edge of Town for me. I love all of those episodes. I love all of those albums. I think Born in the USA is a fucking great record. Fucking great album. I think Nebraska is amazing. The River is fantastic. And Darkness on the Edge of Town is one of, not just my favorite Springsteen album, it's one of my favorite albums ever. I just love that album so goddamn much. There's not a bad song on it. It's like quintessential Springsteen. The people he's singing about, the stories in the songs, the themes, the yearning, to get up, to get out, to go somewhere, to bust loose, to transcend, your origins and where you come from, and feeling trapped in your hometown and wanting to get away, singing about factory workers and street racers and the working class and the young and teenagers acting out and being rebellious. And it's just a great fucking album. So I would say Darkness on the Edge of Town is my favorite Springsteen album. Matthew Stanford says, how come the Democrats are letting Trump and the Republicans blame them for a potential lockdown? The GOP have the necessary simple majorities in both houses of Congress, don't they? Do they? I think they, they may need more than a simple majority for some of it. But, no, why do the Democrats let the Republicans get away with anything? I mean, not all Democrats are. There are lots of Democrats who are willing to fight, but there's just this reticence and this shyness and this, reluctance to say anything that might get somebody mad at them in the mainstream, establishment Democrats, that just drives me up a fucking wall. And the fact that we still have to deal with this now, with Trump having gone so far over the line. It was inexcusable during Trump's first term. Trump's first term, he was over the line, and he should have been resisted far, far stronger than he was. But this time, Jesus Christ, what else are you waiting for him to do? And there are still some Democrats, including some Democrats in very prominent positions, that are like, well, no, let's not go nuts now. Let's not go too far. It's like, what else does he have to do? Isaiah says, it's funny you chose Atlantis because Atlantis was the shuttle that visited the fictional space station Daedalus. Hey, I forgot about that. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I forgot. And I just watched Space Camp last year for the first time in probably 25 years. And I forgot that the space station is called Daedalus. That's probably why I like that name so much, because and I think I've told you before, Isaiah, and I've mentioned it on stream before, I know. That's why the Atlantis is my favorite space shuttle, because Atlantis was the space shuttle in Space Camp. But I forgot about Daedalus. Holy shit. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's got to be it. It's Space Camp. It's Space Camp all the way down. What would my Star Trek show be like? I'd make it more like Space Camp. Geek and Stephen Clenard, yes. Airplane is a better remake of Zero Hour. I mean, it's kind of true, yeah, because they did, like, they lifted so much of the plot from Zero Hour for Airplane that, I mean, they bought the rights to it. I mean, it's obvious. So yes, in a sense, it is a remake. I mean, it's also completely different. Like tonally, it's completely different. But the bare bones plot of Airplane is taken from Zero Hour. So I mean, and it's definitely better. Yeah, is Airplane a better movie than Zero Hour? Fuck yes. Fuck yes. So yes, I agree. Oh, welcome, Ryan. Glad you could make it, and thank you for asking your question earlier. 255 AD says, I mean risky in the sense that they might respond with, oh yeah, gun control, let's start by disarming all these trans terrorists. You know, I think it's another example of not doing things worrying about what the fascists are going to do. You really think if people on the left don't push for gun control, that the Republicans are going to say, you know what, you're right, we won't try to take guns away from trans people. Like, they're going to persecute trans people no matter what. So let's worry about what we're going to do and doing what we can to stop them from doing what they're going to try to do. But let's not worry about what they're going to do. Let's worry about what we're going to do. You know, as to paraphrase General Ulysses S. Grant. Gedrin Y says, let Jesse do the past tense video. I mean, I'm not in charge of what videos Jesse does. But I'm perfectly happy to let Jessie do whatever videos the fuck she wants. Abreligo says, isn't Born in the USA like the Beastie Boys, You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party, in which many people overlook that it's a satire song? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Born in the USA is a satire. It's not a satire. But it's not, I mean, people listen to the chorus and they think it's a patriotic song, and it's not at all. I mean, Born in the USA is a song about a Vietnam veteran who comes home and can't get a job. Like, it is an indictment of the reality of working class people who were struggling in Reagan's America. Like, that's what it's about. And the fact that a lot of Republicans, including apparently Reagan himself, who cited it as an example in a speech of, like, you know, an example of the great patriotic spirit rising up in the country under his presidency, to the point that Springsteen, it was one of the early examples of a musician. I mean, it happens to Trump all the time now, but it was a musician basically having to come out publicly and say he doesn't understand the song. Like, the song's not about what he just said. It's about, if you actually listened to the words that I sing in the song, you would know that the thing that Ronald Reagan was describing is not the song. But yes, a lot of people did misinterpret it because they only listened to the chorus. Yeah, Caitlin puts, as far as the gun control thing, they may say, oh, this is your fault, but anything they do, they wanted to do anyway. Exactly. They're going to find an excuse. Oh, Captain, thank you. Captain says, as a Philly adjacent staunch New Jerseyan, I must vehemently agree that the Maryland flag is fantastic. Thank you. Happy to have your support. An enemy spy says, I'm not a huge follower of baseball, but I'm super excited. The Mariners won the AL West for the first time since 2001. Good for the Mariners. Congratulations. Okay, no, this is a good advice from Karen. Karen says, I work a nonprofit that helps people with lifelong intellectual disabilities. I would recommend to people who feel lost to volunteer. It's very rewarding to help others. That is a great suggestion. That is a great suggestion. If you are able to do that, like financially or emotionally, because it is, I mean, a lot of people, it's taking on a lot. Not everybody can do that. But if that's something that you want to do and that you feel like you could do, I absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good way to not only to help others, but to help yourself, to cope, to feel like you're contributing something in this time of terrible chaos. 255 AD says, what would you say to leftists saying, who cares if Kimmel and Colbert got deplatformed? They're just ineffective libs anyway, because that's a sentiment I've genuinely seen. Well, I would say it's not about those individuals. It's about the fact that the government is explicitly exerting pressure to have them taken off the air because of the fact that the president doesn't like their politics. And it's not even the president doesn't like their politics. It's the president doesn't like that they're making fun of him. That's the problem. I personally think Stephen Colbert is great. I like Jimmy Kimmel to a lesser extent, but I have no problem with him either. I would certainly not dismiss either of them as ineffective libs. I think that's an incredibly elitist and, sort of online leftist thing to say, but regardless of your personal opinion of Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel and your personal evaluation of whatever value they offer, to the culture or to politics, that's beside the point. They were targeted by the government to be taken off the air because the president didn't like something they said. That is the issue, because people on the right, they say, oh, what about Roseanne got fired? What about Gina Carano got fired? Those were in response to public pressure. In both of those cases, those two people said something outrageous and offensive that offended so many people in the audience that the companies decided, you know what, we don't want to be associated with this anymore. And they lost their jobs because of that. Now, you can feel free to disagree with that and think that was unfair too, but that's different than what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. That's very different. What happened to Jimmy Kimmel was the head of the FCC, the government agency that regulates television broadcasts, made a not so very veiled threat that it might be bad news in a regulatory sense for Disney and for ABC if they didn't do something about Jimmy Kimmel, and that if the company didn't do something, then the affiliates ought to do something. Like that was the head of the FCC saying that because Donald Trump got his feelings hurt by some shit that Jimmy Kimmel said. And then Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. I mean, albeit, as it turns out, temporarily, but still the fact that it happened at all is ridiculous and unacceptable. It has nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel as a person or with Jimmy Kimmel's politics or how left he is or whether he's a liberal or a leftist or whatever. It has nothing to do with him or Colbert or any of that. It's what it represents. It's what it was that is the problem, not whether or not Colbert or Kimmel are worth having. And again, people who say, oh, he's just a lib anyway. It's an incredibly elitist thing to say and an incredibly dumb thing to say. Like, okay, yeah, he's not as far to the left as many of us would like. Okay, he's still punching Trump rhetorically every night. Like, should we we'll just put on hee-haw reruns instead? Would that make things better? Like, it's a really, really dumb thing to say. A really, really dumb and like, having internet blinders on, like having someone on TV speaking to millions of people every night who is explicitly anti-Trump is not a good thing because he's a lib. Okay. I mean, look, I don't agree with everything he says either, but Jesus fucking Christ, pull your head out of your ass. Oh, let me see. I believe I have missed another live chat or another super chat. Let me see here. Oh yeah, a few more from Kirk. Thank you, my friend. Yes, Jimmy Kimmel is back. Yes, he is. And I miss the good old days of Johnny Carson. Well, boy, those are the good old days. I remember Johnny. I was 12 when Carson left the air. Yeah. Well, and you know, because people have said, I don't know if this is the point that do I Kira with another super chat? Do you think your audience knows what hee haw is? Hopefully, the ones who do thought that was an appropriate reference. Kirok said, I miss the days of Johnny Carson. I mean, you know, I don't know if this is the point you were trying to make or not, but a lot of people have said, you know, Johnny Carson didn't talk about politics, that Johnny Carson didn't take sides. Why does Stephen Colbert have to take sides? Johnny Carson didn't take sides. Why does Jimmy Kimmel have to attack Johnny Carson never did that. If Ronald Reagan had tried to fuck with Johnny Carson the way that Donald Trump is fucking with Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, you had better bet your fucking ass that Johnny Carson would have talked about it. I mean, if anybody believes that if Johnny Carson had been fucked with directly, publicly, and repeatedly by the president of the United States while he was on the air, in the same way that Trump has been fucking with Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and others, like threatening others, but those two specifically, because they have actually faced, you know, repercussions as a result of Trump's, you know, complaining. If that had happened to Johnny Carson would have, he would not have just been quiet. I'll put it that way. He would not have just, well, it's not my place to question the president of the United States. Come on, motherfuckers. He would have been all over that. Johnny Carson would have been ripping Ronald Reagan. If Johnny Carson thought that Ronald Reagan was trying to get him fired from the Tonight Show before he was ready to leave on his own, he would have been ripping Ronald Reagan a new fucking asshole every night. So, and again, I'm not saying that's the point you were trying to make, Kirok, but I have heard people make that argument, and I do not buy that for a second. Oh, and this is a great point from Geek. Is there anyone you 100% agree with about it? No, of course not. No, of course not. Of course not. That's why it's nice. It's nice to have people with, you know, I mean, there are certain opinions that I just won't accept. You know, there are certain, as you know, as everybody knows, there are certain things that I'm not just going to agree to disagree on. But I mean, for my friends and allies who are further to the left than I am, yeah, we disagree on a lot of stuff. But I still think they're the good guys. I still think they're people that I want on my side and that I want to be on their side. I'm sure, I mean, I'm a geek. I know I'm sure you disagree with me on a ton of shit. I'm sure I say things that you find frustrating or disappointing or whatever. But we recognize each other as allies and as friends and people that, you know, even though we have different ideas about the exact nature of what we want, like we both recognize what the problems are, and we both want to make things better for people. And that to me is an ally. And that is someone who I can disagree with and argue with and hopefully learn from, or maybe teach something to in certain areas. You know, that's what you want. I wouldn't want everybody to agree with me on everything, because that would mean that I think I've figured everything out. And that's just a really silly thing for anybody to think. You know, there are always ways you can learn from other people. Zebediah, well, thank you for the super chat. Says Ed McMahon would have sent the AFP after Reagan's ass. Ed McMahon would have gotten so drunk and would have said, Ed McMahon would have gotten thrown off the air by the FCC before Reagan could have gotten Carson. Ed McMahon, let me tell you something, you motherfucker. And he would have been like the over exuberant, like drunk friend who's trying to talk up their buddy. And like, you know, grabbing Johnny and shaking him. This man right here, you don't even know what a motherfucking man is. Johnny fucking Carson. God damn it. Thanks, Ed. Really appreciate it. You know. Oh, Caitlin, this is a good point. Johnny Carson didn't take sides. Didn't he never let a woman be a talk guest? Not well, yeah. I mean, he let Joan Rivers be. Joan Rivers was his guest host for many years, but then when Joan Rivers left her job as the regular guest host for the Tonight Show to get her own show, Johnny never forgave her for that. And I don't know if that, I mean, Johnny Carson was a man of his time. I'm sure he was, he was a lot more sexist than, we would like people to be. I don't know if his beef with Joan Rivers was primarily a sexist thing, if he had a grudge against her specifically because she was a woman. But that was the nature of their rift, is that I think he felt like she had betrayed him somehow, because she got her own show and she became his competitor, instead of being willing to just sort of serve in his reflected light, I think, and he really, really didn't like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not, Johnny Carson was certainly not a perfect person. Yes, this Sunday is the hangout, Russell. Absolutely. This Sunday is the monthly patron hangout. Thank you for reminding me of that. I will remind everybody about it when I wrap up the show, probably in a few more minutes. 255 AD says Johnny Carson never talked about politics like Colbert does. How is that not a point against Carson and for Colbert? Well, it is for us. I mean, I think I think for people, there are people like who are sort of centrist or right leaning who would say that, who'd be like, who would view that as a bad thing. People who don't like that Colbert goes after Trump, but they don't want to just come out as a full-fledged Trump supporter. So they try to hide behind this desire for, civility and bipartisanship. And well, why do they have to take sides? That kind of thing. The Jay Leno horse shit. He's just going to alienate half the audience. Why doesn't he make jokes about both sides? You're going to alienate half the audience if you're only making fun of Trump. Who the fuck asked you, Jay? Go work on your fucking cars, you fuck. Breligo says, do you enjoy any political channels? I like to watch Kyle Kulinski, The Majority Report with Sam Sater, and The Vanguard. I watch Sam Sater sometimes, not like regularly, but every once in a while. Yeah, I watch Sam Sater. And I watch like Some More News, which is like a political comedy channel. I watch that semi-regularly. I really like Cody and Katie. So yeah, every once in a while. Sock Friends says, I feel like it's important to not surround yourself with people who always agree with you, because that's how you create dictators. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said before, I mean, having people around who don't agree with you doesn't mean like we should make friends with Nazis. No. But, people who disagree with you within reason, right? People who disagree with you on stuff other than who should have rights, like that sort of stuff, But yes, I agree. It's very important to have a circle of friends, to be friends with people and have people in your life who you love and who you trust, who will challenge you, who will not just say, you're right, you're the best, like all the time. If they think you're wrong, if they think you're being a dipshit, if they think you need to check something and fix something or apologize for something, they will let you know. It's important to have people like that in your life. Oh, Winters, that's a great point. Why did they have to take sides as codes for why isn't it my side? Boy, howdy. Because you've never heard somebody say that, have you? Have you ever heard somebody say, why do you have to take my side? I mean, unless it was somebody taking your side that you thought was fucking shit up for you. Like if the person making the worst argument is like arguing for your side, then maybe you'll say, why does he have to take my side? But if like somebody popular, like if Taylor Swift was putting a bunch of fucking right-wing messages into her songs and like her fan base was mostly right-wing people, and she was encouraging people to vote for Republicans, do you think Trump would have a fucking problem with it? Do you think he would say, oh, I wish she would just stay out of politics? Fuck, of course not. Of course not. It's because people are siding against them. That's 100% of the problem. And if they're pretending when they say, I just wish people would just stay out of it. Why do they have to make it? Why do they have to make it political? Why do they have to take sides? It's exactly what they're saying. Why'd they have to side against me? That's exactly what they're saying. Wolferman Hart. Actually, let me get the super chat first. From KPH. Thank you very much. Says thoughts on Shatner's trip to the hospital and whether or not you think it's too late to bring him back to the franchise one last time. He should not. No. Shatner's health has nothing to do with it. Shatner should not be brought back to the franchise one last time. He's done. He had his run. Like, it is absurd to me that anybody is even considering this. William Shatner had his run. He's done. And I love William Shatner as Captain Kirk. I love Captain Kirk. I love that show. I love those movies. I love William Shatner as Captain Kirk. He's done. He's done. Can we please stop putting fucking 80 and 90-year-old people on the screen to play the same characters they played, in some cases, 30 or 40 years ago, just to make their remaining fans feel good and hopefully wring some more money out of him? Like, no, he should not be brought back. I'm glad he's okay. He had a health scare. I thought it was interesting earlier today. I thought, with most like fucking 95-year-olds, if they go in the hospital, like for any reason, you think, oh, this is it. Because they're 95. If a 95-year-old person goes to the hospital for any reason, you're like, well, I guess this is it. But with Shatner, I don't think people were like, oh, he'll be fine. Well, it was a blood sugar thing. He'll be fine. Like, when Shatner is going to be the only person who lives to his mid to late 90s that his death will come as a shock to people. When Shatner finally dies of whatever it is, people are going to be like, oh, Shatner died. Holy shit, really? And he could be like 98 by then. And people are going to be like, oh my God, William Shatner died? Oh, holy shit. Because like every time you see him, he's like, oh, he seems fine. He's like 95. If you told me he was 65, I'd believe you. Like if you told me William Shatner right now was 65 and I didn't know any better, I'd believe you without a thought. He doesn't seem like a 95-year-old guy. So with him, it's like, oh yeah, like Michael Caine, right? Michael Caine is what, like 92 now, 93? And he looks it. You look at Michael Caine and you're like, yeah, he's old. That's an old guy. William Shatner's like 3 or 4 years older. And you don't look at him and go, oh man, what a frail old man. He'll be dead any second. You don't think that. He doesn't seem like that. But no, he should not be doing any more Star Trek under any circumstances. He's done. He's done. Okay, a couple more super chats, both from Kirok. Thank you as always, my friend, for your generosity. The first one is going to bed tonight laughing my ass off thinking of this dunk Trump in the water. He would be a natural. State fairs, sigh, instead we have this. I would much rather have him making the rounds to carnivals and state fairs working the dunk tank than being the president. I agree with you 100%. Lynn Floyd, by the way, this is a great point. Can we also stop putting 80 and 90-year-old people in Congress in the White House? Yeah, just let them retire. Let them have a nice, quiet retirement with their families. I agree. Don't just let, I agree. And Kirok also said, who played the best Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock? I mean, I think Shatner and Nimoy. I mean, look, I don't think I have seen, of the actors who have played them in like major roles, I don't think I have seen a bad Captain Kirk or a bad Mr. Spock. I think Chris Pine was a fantastic Captain Kirk in the Kelvin movies. I think Zachary Quinto was a fantastic Spock in those. And I think Ethan Peck has been a fantastic Spock in Strange New Worlds. And I think Paul Wesley has been a fantastic Captain Kirk, not yet Captain Kirk in Strange New Worlds. I just think he's in it too much. I don't want to see him as often as we have seen him, but he's good. He's done a good job with the character. But I think for me personally, and other people can have their own opinions and that's fine, but I think the best is still Shatner and Nimoy. Can we just get a small Cisco cameo, says Boxy Brown? But but why? But why? He was the star of the best show. He was the star of the best show. And it's done. It's a finished work. And it's so good. Like, that's the part I don't I understand selfishly, like just wanting to see him again, but like, I'm okay knowing that Avery Brooks is out there somewhere, living his life, doing well, hopefully. Lately, he's been out of the public eye. I don't need to see Cisco again. Like, Cisco's story is done. His work is done. It was a good story. I loved it. I love his character. And if you're going to bring him back, especially after all this time, is what he will come back for going to be worth undoing that ending? And I'm not even saying the ending of Deep Space Nine was not like flawless by any means, but it's an ending. It's done. Is bringing him back, especially in today's environment where it might end up being just like, hey, look, it's Captain Sisko. He's back. Hi, I came back from the wormhole. Like, if it's just going to be that, like, why do it? Why not just let it be? Why not just let the closure stay? It's over. And I personally think it was pretty good. So let's just leave it alone and let's do something else, Michael Handeline says, thanks for linking the GoFundMe. And for the record, Wesley the cat would be very sad if he lost his dog sister. He follows her around all the time and runs to her sometimes when he's scared. Aww. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Hey, well, Boxy, does Avery Brooks want an acting role? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if Avery Brooks wants an acting role, I say give him one. Because I love Avery Brooks. If he wanted, I suspect that he's that he's okay doing whatever he's doing. I mean, if he wants to act and for some reason he's not being cast, then that's fucked up. Because I think he's a great actor. My God, he's an incredibly magnetic, enjoyable actor to watch. I would love to see Avery Brooks, in stuff if that's what he wants. But he might be happy just doing whatever he's doing. Super chat from Yellow Tango. Thank you very much. Said, found your vids in August, and now I'm doing that rewatch of Star Trek I've always wanted to do. Thanks for that, asshole. You're welcome. Thank you. 255 AD says, question, shouldn't Trump going after more mainstream comics be even more disturbing than him going after more radical? It means he's trying to make it so there's no right way to disagree. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Has he been blackballed, Boxy? I didn't know that. What's he been blackballed for? If that's true, then that's fucked up. Zebediah Strange with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, Hawk forever. Yes. Yes. Actually, Boxy, now that you say it, that rings a bell. I do remember seeing something about that Sirach Lofton said he had been blackballed. But did he say why? Like, what did he say? Who did he piss off? While we're working on that, let me go ahead and do my standard wrap up for the show. Let's start pulling this train into the station, and then I'll take any final questions before we call it a night. First of all, thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks to everybody for watching, and thanks especially to my patrons and channel members for your support. I could not do this without you. Thank you all so much for everything you do for me. But for everybody, whether you're a patron or a member or not, for everybody, whether you have sent in a super chat or not. And I really appreciate the super chats, and those are always welcome, and those are always great. And thanks to all of you who did that. But to all of you, whether you did that or not, just for being here and watching. And, if you liked the stream, if you shared it around, if you've liked or shared or commented on any of my videos, thanks for all of that, because that all helps a tremendous amount. And I am so grateful for that. And thanks for hanging out with me and spending time with me tonight. And thanks for the awesome comments and questions. If you enjoy this YouTube thing I do and you would like to help me continue to do it, and you are not currently a patron or a member, think about becoming one if you can afford it. You can become a patron by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives. You can become a channel member by clicking the join button right here on the YouTube page. And if you become a patron or a member at any level of support, one of the things you can take advantage of if you want is you can submit questions ahead of time for these Ask Away live streams. And those are the questions I answer in the first part of the show. And also, if you pledge $5 a month or more as a patron, or $4.99 a month or more, the $5 a month tier or higher on YouTube as a member, I will shout you out by name at the end of a Trek Actually video. But pledges of any amount as patrons or members get you the opportunity to submit questions ahead of time for Ask Away. And once again, to my patrons and members, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I could not do this without you. Also, if you enjoy the YouTube stuff, you might also enjoy the podcasts that I'm a part of. They are a part of the Lemmy Listen family of podcasts. There is Late Seating, the movie review podcast that I do alongside my best friend in the whole wide world, Jason Harding, where we take a fresh look at classic movies and see if they live up to their reputation, whether it's good or bad. And our most recent episode is our review of Disney's The Black Cauldron, one of the final films of Disney's so-called Dark Age. You get to see what Jason and I think of The Black Cauldron. What do you think we think of it? If you haven't listened to the episode yet, check it out. Also, there is the Ensign's Log, which is the Star Trek themed improv comedy podcast that I am on alongside Jason, and also our friend Amanda Billings, who joined us in the previous season and is still with us in the current 8th season. So we are still having a great time doing the Ensign's Log. We are playing our own original characters that exist in the Star Trek universe that are currently sort of milling around in the Deep Space Nine corner of the Star Trek universe. But we are off doing our own thing. We're having our own adventures while Deep Space Nine stuff is sort of happening dimly in the background. It's such a fun show to do. We have such a great time recording it. And if you enjoy Star Trek and you enjoy stuff that kind of makes fun of Star Trek or has fun within a sort of assumed Star Trek world, I think you'll really, really enjoy the Ensign's Log if you haven't checked it out. And if you haven't checked it out and you're looking for a new podcast to binge and get lost in, have I got good news for you? Because as I just said, we just started our 8th season. So you have a ton of podcasts that you can catch up on. So links for everything are in the video description. Don't forget to check out the podcast. And also, as some random geek would remind you and has reminded you in the chat just a minute ago, charitylinks.page is a place you can go where you will find GoFundMe links and various crowdfunding sources for friends of ours who need a helping hand, who are maybe having trouble with some medical bills or having to ask for help just to pay their regular monthly bills because they're in a tough financial situation. If you can spare a few bucks to help out these friends of ours, I would highly encourage you to do so. I know they would appreciate it. I would appreciate it too. So you can find resources to help out people there. charitylinks.page. Please avail yourself of that while I swat at my microphone accidentally. If you are in a position to do so. Now let's go back for one last look at the live chat and see what people are saying. Boxy Brown says he never said why. Yeah, I didn't think so. I never heard a reason. But now that you mention it about Avery Brooks being black, but now that you reminded me, I do remember Sirach often saying that. Yeah, and I'm curious as to why. And again, if that's true, if Avery Brooks would like to be acting and he's not because he's been shut out, that's extremely upsetting because he's great. Kirok with a super chat says, let's not forget Janeway made Sisko a slave again in Roots the Gift, and that was before she killed Tuvix. Food for thought. Yes, that dastardly Janeway, that dastardly Kate Mulgrew and her many, many crimes. And let me see. Stephen G. Clenard says the only reason Avery Brooks should be forced out of acting retirement is if scenery chewing becomes an Olympic sport. That's true, because if scenery chewing ever becomes an Olympic sport and Avery Brooks goes out for the team, that's guaranteed gold for the USA, baby, every time. Michael Handeline says Black Cauldron was a huge mess that got butchered by editing. That's pretty close to Jason and I's take. Jason and I mostly agreed on it. 225 AD says if Voyager had returned to the Alpha Quadrant, how would they have justified like half the main cast not leaving, given they were only in the crew as a result of being stranded? They would have come up with something. I'm not sure what they specifically would have done, but they would have come up with something. Lynn says, what is on Sunday? Sunday is the monthly live hangout for my patrons and members here on the channel. So I send out a Zoom link to my patrons and members at about 15 minutes before noon Eastern time, and it's first come, first serve. If you're a patron or a member, you can join me live in the Zoom call for about an hour, usually a little more than an hour, because we tend to be a talkative bunch. I do limit the number of people that are in there. I do cut it off after there are 13 people in total in the room. So a maximum of me and 12 people, just so it doesn't become total chaos. But yeah, and we hang out in a Zoom call for an hour, and I also live stream it on the YouTube channel, and we do it once a month and on the last Sunday of the month, which will be this Sunday. And it's just a way for me to hang out with some of my supporters and say thank you and spend some time with them. And it's always a fun show. So if you're interested in that, Lynn, as a new member, and you're able to make it, and you can get in if you're one of the, if it does turn out to be a full house and you can get in before the 13-person cutoff, you'd be more than welcome. But that will be this Sunday starting at noon Eastern. And Kirog with another super chat says, which one of your characters is going to be fighting the Jem'Hadar or lose, have the founders rejoicing? Well, you mean on Ensign's log? If one of us is going to fight and get their ass kicked by a Jem'Hadar, it's going to have to be my character. Because my character is the one with the big mouth who thinks he's king shit, who is not. So I would be the one. And of course, Jason's character, has super strength. And Amanda is like a karate fighter and is a badass. So of course, my character, the one who thinks he's a badass, but actually isn't, would be the one to step up and mouth off to a Jem'Hadar and get smacked down. That's probably how it would have to happen. Yeah. All right. That is it. I am going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for being here once again. Thanks for all the questions and the comments, and those of you who were generous with super chats. Thank you very much. Those of you who are patrons and or members, thank you. I will see some of you on Sunday for the monthly hangout, and I will see everybody else at some point in the near future for another video. So, and Dana and I will be doing Trek Reluctantly on Wednesday as usual. So thanks everybody. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, and take care of yourselves. Oh, Kirok, last second super chat. Thank you very much. Says, I do have a late night podcast Saturday night. I will try to make it Sunday, which I can't miss this time. By the way, we're taking we're taking Seeing Red from Buffy. Okay. Well, I hope you can make it. And thanks once again for the super chat, buddy. All right. For real this time. Good night. Bye, everybody.